or call our care team today on 07491 29562 and bring care home.
Traditional Irish folk and ballad band The Kilkennys come to Jackson's Hotel Ballbuffet on Friday 16th of February and Kirchkey Door on Saturday 17th of February. Tickets are €20 each and available from Eventbrite and from hotel reception.
Introducing the McSpicy and Frank's Red Hot Burger, featuring irresistible Frank's Red Hot Mayo, jalapenos, cheese, and our mouth-watering crispy, spicy coated chicken. You lot ain't ready for this one.
McSpicy and Frank's Red Hot, the hottest drop of the year. Until the 12th of March from 11 a.m. Subject to availability. Frank's Red Hot bottle not available at McDonald's.
Gregory, I'm in shock.
Me too.
Me secret sound's gone already. I thought that one was going to last forever.
Shaking a coconut.
Shaking a coconut this time of year? Who would be shaking a coconut?
But fair play to them.
I shook that coconut in the summertime as a backup.
Oh, you've had that one in the bank for a while.
Because I didn't think that other one was going to last.
They're seasonal too, are they?
I don't know that. But somebody, Noreen and
that
Jack.
One could have gone to 2 or 3. That one could have gone to 2 or 3 grand.
God, I would have just thought so. Any ideas for tomorrow? Well, it's a great 220 for children.
Shake a banana. If anyone gets that, I'll double any money you...
Shake a banana?
I'll double any money you have.
I know. Shaking a coconut. I can't even pronounce it now.
You're in shock.
I am. What are we going to do for tomorrow?
I don't know, but I thought...
Any ideas?
Well, I don't think it's the best thing to do, talk it on air.
Or maybe not,
Maybe you should actually try Velcro.
Yeah, stapler.
Yeah,
no,
stapler.
That's played out, that, isn't it? God almighty, the shaking the coconut. I can't even say it. I can't even say it. The coconut.
You and your coconuts. But anyway, come here. I think you've actually lost the plot. Finally, you've gone over the edge now.
I can't do more than
shock.
Me and me coconuts. Do you know, I used to have a friend, right? He could never say markers, he used to say marketers. Making coconuts. Yeah, you don't even tricky words, no?
Well, no, but a lot of people struggle with the news side of things. They call it Westminster instead of Westminster.
That's not too bad.
A lot of people say Simina, but coconuts or whatever you're saying.
Yeah, I know, that's enough. No, right. Serious stuff now, come on, let's pass over to the news.
Right, so we'll be back tomorrow.
Yeah, what am I going to do?
Genuinely.
My head's tortured now.
If shaking a coconut didn't last a couple of months, I have no idea what you're doing.
It's not easy coming, because everything's so easy to work out.
Yeah, and then you don't want it to be so unfair that it could be a...
Yeah.
You always do a good job at it. There's always going to be 1 or 2 goes early.
All right, sure.
But that's brilliant. What a fantastic...
yeah, well done to
What
Noreen.
a fantastic win. 220.
20,
nice.
yeah. 4 kids. It'd be nice we tweeted the weekend,
Off to the cinema.
Lovely, something like that. It'd be lovely, wouldn't it? Great.
All right, have a good Lee. I'll wait for you to go and find something that makes a noise and shake your coconuts. Okay, it is 9 o'clock, 2 minutes past now. Let's get a news update, and it's over to Michaela Clark.
Thanks, Greg. Good morning. The Chief Medical Officer says she's very concerned the country is at high risk of a measles outbreak. It follows the death of a man in his 40s in the first reported case of the disease in Ireland this year. He died at a hospital in the Dublin and Midlands Health region after recently travelling to an event in England. The WHO recommends a 95% vaccination rate. However, it's fallen below 90% in Ireland. In the Donegal, Leitrim, Sligo and West Cavan region, vaccine uptake is 82%. CMO Professor Breda Smith says the low vaccination rate is worrying.
I'm very concerned that we are at high risk of an outbreak of measles in Ireland at the moment. We need 95% of the population to be vaccinated in order to prevent measles infection from spreading. Unfortunately, the uptake rate for the MMR vaccine in Ireland has fallen below 90% nationally, and in some counties, the rate is as low as below 80%.
Early Childhood Ireland is calling on all Donegal Oireachtas members to support a new single agency for early years and school age care. The body has today issued all Oireachtas members with its policy proposal outlining the importance of the establishment of such an agency to support the over 8,200 children enrolled in childcare settings in Donegal. Early Childhood Ireland says the current system is fragmented. CEO Teresa Heaney says a commitment previously given by government to provide a single agency for the sector must be honoured.
We've been calling for a single agency since 2019, and we were really pleased in the last programme for government that the Department of Children and the entire government committed to establishing a single agency. But I suppose what we're really concerned about at the moment is that we are potentially facing an election very soon. So we believe that it's now really important that government and all of the opposition parties commit to establishing this early years agency.
A public meeting is to be held in Milford next week to discuss the redevelopment of the former Reformed Presbyterian Church. The Milford and District Resource Centre received the building from the Reformed Presbyterian congregation in Milford in November 2022, and grants secured to date have allowed it to partially reopen. A €200,000 private donation has been made towards the restoration of the former church, which is now known as the Gallowglass Community Centre, which will go towards carrying out key repairs and development works. Declan Meehan, manager of MDRC, is inviting people to the meeting on Monday at 7 p.m. in the Gallowglass Community Centre, where findings of a conservation plan, feasibility study and public consultation will be presented. Finally, for weather, a status yellow snow and ice warning is in place for the northwest today, meaning it will be cold, wet and blustery with outbreaks of rain, sleet and snow spreading. Highest temperatures of 2 to 4 degrees. That's all from Highland Radio News for now. We'll be back with news again at 10 o'clock. Until then, good morning.
And now, it's time for the talk of the Northwest. The 9 to Noon Show with Greg Hughes on Highland Radio.
Hello, good morning to you. It's 5 minutes past 9. You're very welcome along to the 9 till Noon Show here in Highland Radio. And it is Thursday, the 8th of February, 2024. How are you all keeping out there? A lot of disappointed young ones, I suppose, with the nature of these weather warnings. They may have thought, and a lot of adults as well, perhaps, may have thought that we were going to wake up to a blanket of snow across the northwest. But it hasn't arrived yet. It is due to, apparently, as the rain moving up from the south meets the cold easterly wind. But let us know if you spot any. The lines are open for all of your contacts, by the way. Your WhatsApps and texts to 086 60 25,000, 086 60 25,000, or you can give us a call on 07491 25,000. And emails, and the email has really taken off lately with people, I suppose, having a bit of a longer form to ask their questions or seek help and advice. You can email us at your leisure in confidence from wherever you are, comments at highlandradio.com, and we'll be getting to a few of those emails a little later on in this hour. But let's see what's making the newspapers this morning. The Tyrconnell Tribune reacting to news that county councils are to deploy an additional 60 new staff to police farm water pollution. A spokesperson in Lifford said Donegal County Council received sanction from the Department of Housing and Local Government and Heritage to take on one agriculture inspection staff member. We asked the council, the paper did, to confirm the number of inspectors employed in Donegal and how many of the 60 new inspectors will be deployed to this county. In July 2022, the council's website saw tenders for the service of farm inspectors. It said a contract will be awarded for the outsourcing of a series of farm inspections in various at-risk catchments in County Donegal. The specification may include carrying out of investigative assessment in certain agricultural catchments as required. A full detailed report on that, which continues inside the paper as well. The Donegal News this morning, the spending of more than €26 million over a 3-year period on agency staff at Letterkenny University Hospital, while a HSE recruitment embargo is in place, has been branded as unbelievable. Member of the Regional Health Forum West, Councillor Jerry McMonigal, said the Donegal News, or told the Donegal News, that it beggars belief that such an amount of money would be used for medical agency staff, while at the same time a HSE recruitment freeze is active. Figures provided by the HSE to the newspaper show just over 26 million was spent on agency staff between the years of 2020 to 2022. The Dairy News this morning, drugs arrests rise while confiscations decrease. The PSNI in Derry carried out fewer drug confiscations in 23 than the year before, despite an increase in drug-related arrests, according to new official data. Last year, PSNI carried out drug seizures a total of 663 times in Derry and Strabane. This represented a decrease of 93 on the year before, when it carried out 756. On to the Irish Times now. And Sinn Féin support hits its lowest level in 3 years. They have dropped 4 points to 38%. That's the satisfaction rating of party leaders, sorry. They've actually dropped 6 points to 28%, which is double the margin of error, so a figure that can't be ignored. Fine Gael have gained 1 point to 19%. Fianna Fáil remain unchanged at 20%. The Green Party have added 2 percentage points in support. They're up to 5%, Labour at 4%. But support for Sinn Féin has slumped in the latest Irish Times Ipsos BNA opinion poll, with the party falling to its lowest level in 3 years. Sinn Féin support fell to 28%, a 6-point drop since the most recent poll in September. With a general election due within the next year, the results of the poll will cause alarm in Sinn Féin, long presumed to be the favourites to lead to the next government. The poll results cast doubt on those assumptions, although it maintains a healthy lead over both Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil. This is as low as Sinn Féin has been since just after the last election, and I've said it on this programme from the longest time that there is no guarantee that the same government that's in power now won't be returned, and perhaps maybe that's becoming a little bit clearer now in the polls. If you were asked by a polling company, do you support Sinn Féin, and you've changed your mind, or maybe you've changed your mind back in favour of the current government parties, let us know. 08660 25,000. Is there something about the Sinn Féin policy or their stance that you don't like that has changed your mind? And also what's happened with Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil that has sort of seen your interest in them return. In terms of the satisfaction ratings for leaders, Mary Lou McDonald is at 38%, down 4%. Leo Varadkar's at 40%, up 1%. And Micheál Martin will be quite happy with his plus 3% to leave his approval rating at 44%. The government's overall approval rating at the moment is 35%, which is up 3%. So, as I say, is there a particular reason as to why you may have changed your view if you were polled in September compared to now? No matter what the case may be very interested in your views on that. There are calls for a clampdown as tenants hit by rent hikes above the legal limits. This is in the Irish Independent. The state regulator for the rental sector has promised to clamp down on landlords as new figures show rental costs rising significantly above legal limits. Data for the 3 months up to last September show existing tenants had suffered an average rise of 5.2% since the same quarter of 2022. And interestingly, in Donegal, there's a huge gap between those who are new renters just coming into the market now, or maybe moving home. And there's lots of reasons as to why there's lots of new renters in this county, not least people moving out of defective concrete homes, etc. Well, the existing average rent is €708 in Donegal. That's up 8.9%. But for new renters, it's €987. That's up 23.4%. And looking at the percentage increases around the country, 9 to 14, 18 and 19 in some cases, but in that 9 to 14 range. Donegal, 23.4%. So there's a serious shortage of, obviously, rental accommodation. There's huge demand, and that demand will only grow, you would imagine. So we're facing one of the biggest gaps between in situ renters versus new renters anywhere in the country. The Irish Daily Mail this morning: arsonists targeted asylum seeker accommodation face heavy prison sentences following the latest suspected fire attack on a house falsely believed to have been earmarked for use by refugees. Gardaí have launched an investigation after a 7-bedroomed detached house on the Selbridge Road in Leakslip in Kildare was torched in the early hours of Wednesday morning. The incident is believed to be the 23rd where a premises linked or rumoured to be linked to the housing of people seeking asylum was set alight. Wednesday night's fire comes days after a vacant nursing home in Dublin was set alight. Demonstrations had been staged at the property recently by people who believed the building at Cruxling off the N81 to Blessington were to be used to accommodate refugees. For several weeks, the Leakslip property, named Honeywood, has been subject to numerous protests by anti-immigration activists, with the most recent taking place several hours before the arson attack. So another one and another building. It's terrible, really, isn't it, to see these when we have a housing crisis here, to see these accommodation houses or whatever it might be burnt to the ground. The Irish Farmers Journal this morning, top quality continental weanlings are hitting a record €4 a kilogram in March this week, with cattle being snapped up for export. Mohill Mart in County Leitrim saw over 400 bull weanlings meet an electric trade at its annual Monaghan Day sale on Wednesday. Top quality 350 kg continental weanlings are currently selling from €1,270 to €1,400 a head, or up to €4 a kilogram. This is up €70 to €100 a head on the same week last year. Okay, so prices on the up there. On to the Irish Daily Star now, and North West MEP Maria Walsh has been pretty vocal across a number of issues. Fine Gael MEP Maria Walsh has said she expects Enoch Burke's family to restart using a 5-year-old website targeting her in the run-up to June's European elections. The site, which states it was set up by Enoch Burke, made repeated references to the fact the former Rose of Tralee is a member of the LGBTI community. Speaking to the Star at the European Parliament in Strasbourg, Ms Walsh, an MEP for Midlands North West, also said that scrutiny of politicians has become intense and unrealistic. And she also said that European Parliament can be male, pale and stale, following Fianna Fáil's decision to run 3 male candidates in their mid-50s. Her comments came after Fianna Fáil TD Barry Cowan won a selection convention in Mullingar to become his party's candidate for the European election in her Midlands North West constituency. And it's incredibly likely that, most likely I should say, that Niall Blaney will be added to that ticket, because it works out in terms of the vote he acquired geographically and so on and so forth. But Maria Walsh has said that the European Parliament can be male, pale and stale. Is that something that you agree with? Let us know. 086 60 25 000. On to the Irish Daily Mirror now, and an adult with a confirmed case of measles has died. The HSE has announced. Now, measles in this country has been incredibly rare for quite some time, and deaths, it's been a couple of decades since someone has passed because of measles. Well, the person passed away in a hospital in the Dublin and Midlands Health region. The HSE added this was the first confirmed measles case notified in the country this year. Public health teams, as well as the Measles National Incident Management Team, are taking all the necessary public health actions in relation to this case, we are told. And a big push is going to be happening over the next while to try and encourage parents primarily to get their young ones vaccinated. The vaccination rate in Donegal, 82%. Nationally, it's around about 88%. And they say it's 95% is required for herd immunity. And lastly, in the Sun today, Viagra slashes men's risk of Alzheimer's disease, a study suggests. Researchers found fellas on the sex pills were 18% less likely to develop the degenerative brain condition. Matthew Adesian, who led the team at University College London, said these results are encouraging and may point to a new way to reduce Alzheimer's risk. Okay, and initially that drug was being developed to lower blood pressure, I believe it was, but then during the whole trial period, a few things popped up that pointed to the fact that it might be useful elsewhere. But there you go. Okay, maybe it's now useful in terms of tackling Alzheimer's. Good morning to Charlie and Dahi and Brendan and Beth and Annie amongst those watching the show. Just to remind you can watch the programme if you wish, if it suits you, on our YouTube channel on your smart TV or Fire Stick. It's Highland Radio Ireland, and we're across your mobile devices on that app, and on Facebook too, Highland Hub or Highland Radio News and Sport.
The newspapers are courtesy of Kelly Centra Mountaintop Letterkenny, the C-Store National Large Forecourt of the Year for 2022.
This week's show is brought to you by the Highland Hooligan Saloon. Join us this September in the sunny Saloon for a week of live entertainment with Ireland's leading country artists, dinner each evening and plenty of crack. Sun, Saloon and you this September. For booking information, go to the outlet on highlandradio.com.
Are you building, rebuilding or renovating? What heat pumps or solar panels would suit your build? Come along and speak to the experts, Efficient Renewables on heat pumps and solar panels. Get advice on installation and grants available. Visit the Efficient Renewables showroom in Newton Cunningham and see these products in operation for yourself.
I know it's easy with bottles and cans. Simply throw them in a bin. But they're not useless. There's a new way to do this. Return your bottles and cans.
Return is Ireland's deposit return scheme. Bring back empty, undamaged bottles and cans with the Return logo to a shop or supermarket. You'll get your deposit back and they'll get recycled better. For more, visit return.ie.
Bring it back. I'm making a move.
Looking for real choice? Leave diesel behind and make the move to Toyota Hybrid Electric at Kelly's Toyota Letterkenny and Mount Charles. World-leading hybrid electric technology, lower emissions driving, with the widest choice of hybrid electric models from Ireland's best-selling car brand. With flexible payment options available, make the move today at Kelly's Toyota Letterkenny and Mount Charles. Toyota, built for a better world.
Connor here from Irwin Expert Electrical, home to Ireland's largest LG TV display, now with a further 10% off all models, with a huge selection of top household electronics featuring energy-efficient Bosch appliances, premium brands such as Sage, Electrolux, cooker taps and more, interest-free layaway service available. Irwin Expert Electrical, Letterkenny and Buncrana.
This Valentine's Day, there's a free box of chocolates with every 12 roses while stocks last at Annie's Flowers and Gifts. Call 917740 or order online at anniesflowers.ie, and with an air code, your flowers will be delivered direct to your loved one. Make it special this Valentine's Day with Annie's Flowers and Gifts, Lower Main Street, Letterkenny.
And you're very welcome back to the programme. Now, just a couple of stories by coincidence as we lead into our next conversation, and it's in relation to transgender participation, and it's been confirmed that the Miss World competition is allowing transgender women to enter that competition. That sparked something of a debate. And closer to home, transgender Irish dancers can compete in categories that match their gender identity. The CLRG has decided. Irish dancing's governing body made the ruling following legal advice and weeks of debate. Last year, a teenage transgender girl based in the US qualified to compete in this year's upcoming World Championship. But we're talking now about transgenderism, or a transgender policy in Gaelic football. Danielle Lochry joins us on the programme to discuss this. Good morning, Danielle.
Good morning, Greg. How are you?
I am good. So what is the current policy? Because we're marking an anniversary, really. So what is the current policy, the transgender policy in the LGFA?
The current policy only relates to transgender women coming into your sports. So there's 3 different sections to it. There's application process for anybody over 18, anybody between the ages of 16 and 18, and then anybody from the age of 12 to 15. Basically, it's based on testosterone suppression, having a letter from your doctor to say that you are transitioning, or having your gender recognition cert. And once they go through the process, the LGFA decides if, to pass it or not, and if they can play in our female sport then going forward.
Now, of course, Danielle, you're not a sole voice on this issue in your opposition to it, but you're the one people are most likely to hear. What are you getting from those within the game over the course of this last year? As I say, you're the most outspoken, but it doesn't necessarily tell the full story of what the feeling is amongst those competing in the sport. What are they telling you?
Well, I have received no opposition to my stance from anybody within the country here, really, in relation to this. Anybody I've spoken to all believes that this policy is wrong. The way it was taken in is very undemocratic. There was no consultation with grassroots level. The LGFA cites itself as being a democratic organisation, but yet this policy came from the top and it stayed at the top. There was no discussion at grassroots level or further down, the pegging order as into its introduction. So the majority of the people out there are opposed to it as it stands. there has been a lot of upheaval within certain central council meetings, looking for it to be reviewed and rescinded straight away. But here we are a year later, and there has been no word of anything like that happening from LGFA management yet.
And there is some concern that really a debate on this was, I suppose, didn't get out of the starting gates, really. It was suppressed to some extent.
That's basically what it is. I mean, when you look at the LGFA, it's supposed to start at the ground roots level with, its members, and then we go to its units and its clubs, then it's county boards, then it's provincial council, and then up to central council. But there was no discussion bar at Central Council and with LGFA management about what should be in this policy. Do we need this policy? How do we approach, even introducing the policy? It was just taken in on the start of February last year. There was an email sent out with the transgender policy attached to it. I believe at that point, if you honestly ask anybody who attended the Central Council meeting who voted on this policy to give an honest answer, did they even read the policy as it stood? Had they spoken to anybody about it? Did they believe that it was going to be introduced, or did they just think that this was a starting point for discussions on its introduction? So it was just pushed in within 2 weeks, and then no more than 6 weeks later, we already had an approved application gone through. So very, very rushed, and very undemocratic.
And as the year progresses, you're lobbying the LGFA for commentary on this, for some clarification on this, and it was delivered to you in an unusual way. Yes, I had sent quite a few questions now, because I had a lot of concerns about the policy as it stands, through my club, which then had to go to the county board, which then finally made its way to the LGFA in Croke Park. Now, I had written out my questions in a lovely email. There was nothing untoward on it, just general questions. But it took over 3 months for the LGFA to finally get back to me. And the way it was is they replied in an emailed answer to all my questions to my county board secretary and chairperson. But they, at the county board meeting, were only allowed to read out the answers to my questions. I wasn't allowed to see the email. I wasn't allowed to be handed a printout of the email. So I had to sit and try and write down, the answers to maybe 22 questions that I had sent them. So I unfortunately then had to waste my county secretary's time by making her sit and reread every single response over and over and over again till I wrote it down, because they were told under no circumstances was I to get my hands on a copy of what they had written. Now, I don't understand that. I just don't. Okay. And was there anything in the response given to you that was satisfactory? No, none of it, really. They hide behind this line saying that this was a legal obligation on the LGFA, that they had to introduce this policy. But given research from myself and the wonderful volunteers at the Countess and numerous other women that are advocates for fair play sport for women, have looked at EU laws, Irish laws, the Gender Recognition Act, and they honestly don't believe that there is any legal obligation. And if there was a legal obligation, then the likes of the government agency Sport Ireland, who oversees all sporting bodies within Ireland, they are the ones who help sporting bodies here introduce policies and know their legal obligations. But in this past year, they have not once said that, yes, the LGFA had a legal obligation to do this. We have spoken to other sporting bodies who have said, well, they don't have a policy of this in the minute, and they're not really working on it until they get guidance from Sport Ireland. So yet Sport Ireland still have not taken anything out. I know Sport Ireland last year have done a lot of consultation themselves in relation to this area, but we are still yet to see the results of that consultation. But yeah, there's no... Sport Ireland themselves have not said there's a legal obligation. When you look at the likes of, if it was, then with the merger between the LGFA and the GAA and the Camogie Association, here we are a year later from the LGFA's introduction of it, but yet there's no such policy within the GAA or the Camogie Association. So if they're all in the one bracket and they're all under the same legal obligation, then why is it just the LGFA that has it? Right. Why has there been no push then for other sporting bodies? You use the hashtag Save Women's Sports. I mean, the transgender community is incredibly small in this country, and the percentage of those or them that may wish to choose to play GEA is going to be ever smaller since. Is it really going to have the impact that you fear it's going to have?
It may not have the impact that you're going to go rock out onto a pitch and every single team is going to have a transgender player on it. But my feeling is with this is the LGFA is in its 50 year, of being our sporting body. They have done immense work over those 50 years at getting more and more women involved in the sport and made such fantastic steps that I feel this is just a massive regression, that we are supposed to trust our association to have our best interests at heart as players and as volunteers. But I feel that the introduction of this has just basically said, okay, ladies, women, yeah, you are great. For 50 years, you have supported us immensely. But here now, we're just going to let the odd man in to play the sport, and please don't say anything about it. I just feel like they're
just
taking a step back.
They probably refer to themselves as a transgender woman, but I understand where you're coming from.
Yes.
I mean, fundamentally, do you expect... I think this is a fair question because it talks to maybe where you're coming from this, Danielle. Fundamentally, do you accept that there are more than two genders, or that, a man can transition to a woman and a woman can transition to the man? Or is this just solely based on a level playing field in sport?
No, based in reality and in biology, you can't change sex. It is as simple as that. I don't care how many gender recognition certs the government hand out under their Gender Recognition Act. Biology is fact and is reality. You cannot change sex. There is only two sexes, two genders, male and female. Now, I understand anybody who doesn't feel like they fall into that stereotypical way of, I'm not really feminine or I'm not really masculine, and that's absolutely fair. But we can't be how do you say it? We can't lose sight of reality, that you are one or the other. It's inherently in your body. That's what it is. That's never going to change, unfortunately, for them. It's so inherently, my opinion is there are two sexes, and that's that. And the introduction of a transgender woman into our female Gaelic football is just... It's an unacceptable risk as far as
and the risk
I'm
being
concerned.
injury.
It's unnecessary.
Is the risk being injury? So, like a transgender woman born male would have a physical advantage, could cause injuries, or could just really skew what's expected from the sport. Or what are your concerns on the pitch?
Yes, well, that is a massive part of it. If you have a transgender woman on the pitch, who's, especially if they haven't gone through male puberty, I mean, there's a new study released now that even from the age of 8 upwards, boys are faster. So it's unfair. And it's a much high risk. I believe even the LGFA themselves know that it's a high risk, because in the application process, they have set up a risk assessment committee for each application. So they know themselves that having a male-bodied player coming in is going to increase the risk to the females on the pitch. There's going to be the risk of unfairness, and there's going to be the risk to safety. I mean, over the past number of, say, 5 or more years, the LGFA have really pushed their concerns about concussion procedures. Well, if this is a non-contact sport and we shouldn't be worried about injuries, why is concussion such a massive thing? And why do they themselves, in the application for process for this transgender policy, state that they know there is such a thing as an unacceptable risk?
But obviously,
so many questions.
But just in relation to that, and it's only for the purpose of conversation. I mean, you could have a situation, and you've seen it yourself, I'm sure, Danielle, where you could have a very strong, tall woman who is a defender, and you see it in the men's game as well, but even more so in the women's game, who is a defender and, a light 5'1" attacker forward. Do you know what I mean? So, that is sort of built into the sport as well.
Yeah, it is. But the thing is, it doesn't matter if she's 6'6" or 5'2". She is still a woman. You know, if she has just the advantage of being higher or taller, if she has the advantage of working harder through her life, that she is quicker than you and she is a better footballer than you, then that is fine, because we start out at least somewhat of a level pegging, because we are all the same sex, we are all female. So if she's better than you, then you put your hand up and say, oh my God, she is brilliant. But if you're out in the pitch, and even if you're marking a transgender woman and they may not be as good as you, it's unfair. That means that there is a biological girl now sitting on the bench, or maybe completely excluded herself from the sport because she's not been given the opportunity.
Obviously, you know, I think, what is it, 1 or 2 in 100 people, and it probably might increase, maybe born in the wrong bodies. They see it and look to transition as they mature. Like, can the GEA, LGFA accommodate them at all? Like, I mean, it's an association for all, or are they just excluded because of, you know, who they are? Do you know what I mean? So I'm thinking maybe sort of earlier in their lives and as they come through. I mean, do you see any place for? There's never going to be enough to make up individual teams. Like, so do you ever see a space for them at any level in the sport?
Of course there could be, but in the category of their birth sex, because the GAA need to be more welcoming of males who maybe see themselves as more feminine, or I mean, they have no policy to say, right, okay, we've figured out a way to be more helpful and making you feel more at home in this sport. Like, that's what could be done across sporting bodies. I mean, you look at the Gender Recognition Act itself, you're allowed to apply for gender recognition cert if you're over 18, and only in special circumstances with parental guidance, or, you know, if you're between the ages of 16 and 18. So even the law itself in Ireland says, look, no, we want to stay away from encouraging anybody who is not an adult from transitioning. But yet the LGFA policy has a whole section for children from 12 to 15 to make that change. And I just think that's, if we're not able to do that in law because our government is worried about the consequences it can have, we need to be very careful what we're putting into our sporting policies.
I think sometimes a lot of the
sporting bodies out there just need to be more welcoming.
I think the confusion sometimes in individual cases like we're talking now talks to really a lack of clarity, you know, on a national level and what people want and what have you. There is also the issue, as a couple of listeners have pointed out, about shared spaces as well. I'm thinking changing rooms, showers and what have you. Again, these cases are incredibly rare at the moment. But is that a concern that you share?
Yeah, that's a massive concern as well, obviously. Yeah, it was one of my initial queries to the LGFA, going, well, if somebody is approved to play, do they get access to our change rooms? And their simple reply is once they've gone through the approval process and been approved, they have full access to all facilities within the club, just like everybody else. So they didn't specifically say, yes, changing rooms, but access to all facilities, to me, states your changing rooms. Now, I don't want my daughter in a changing room with a male-bodied person, just as well. Like, I don't want my son in a changing room with a female-bodied player. You know, this works both ways. I'm not just targeting transgender women here. This is all round. We need to be very careful on our child safeguarding here and above.
What do you want for as the first year anniversary approaches? Like, what do you want? As I said earlier on, you know, I'm not across this whole debate and conversation specific to this, if you know what I mean. But for me, it comes across a little bit like you're a sole voice with, you know, some likes and retweets. But is anyone else really having this conversation? I don't see any people currently playing the sport, or maybe they are, who are, you know, prepared to sort of put their head on the chopping block, so to speak. Now, maybe I'm doing people a disservice, but do you feel like this is publicly it's a solo battle?
Oh, no, definitely not. The support I'm getting from across the country has been amazing. It may be a very slow process of trying to get the LGFA to open up and speak to us about this, but it is still a process. The LGFA haven't made it easy by saying they won't speak to anybody if they're not LGFA members. It takes them 3 months to reply to any queries. It's just been a long, hard battle, but one that isn't going to go away, and there's numerous supporters out there, numerous people that are working on this from many different angles, not just this one. So no, I'm not a solo voice. A lot of people are afraid to publicly say how they feel because they've seen what's happened.
That's what I'm talking about. It's about
they've
people,
seen what they've
players or management or coaches, maybe they have privately held views. They're not speaking out, and you say because of the risk of being labelled, whatever the label might be. Yeah, because previously, like last year, in the likes of February and March and April time, there had been a few. There was one player in particular who spoke out about it, and there was a manager down the country of a county team who spoke out about it. But very quickly, they seem to disappear off the radar. So it just would make me wonder then what pressure was put on them by their county board to say, look, please don't be saying this. We can't have any more pressure. We don't want decisions not going our way because of the views you hold against the higher authority here. Or sponsors being targeted, which we've seen in the past. But this is part of a wider societal problem that comes up on so many issues on this, Danielle, is that we can't seem to have a respectful, honest, open public debate on another thing. If you say something, you're described as being, some slur or other, and I suppose
you're given some label.
The conversation could go in the other direction as well. Not that you would, but do you know what I mean? It's like this. All the issues, like this is what these are the types of things that people are listening at home and saying, "Oh, she's right" or "She's wrong" or blah blah blah. But until we find a way to have these conversations out in the open.
That's it, exactly.
You know what I mean? And as I say, it's not just this one. There's so many others as well.
It's not. There's many different, but we seem to have lost the knack of being able to publicly debate things without it dropping into a slanging match and an insult-bearing thing. And it definitely makes it hard whenever you're trying to talk about something that is so important. Well, I believe is so important. There's many other out there that believe this is very important. And of course, there's going to be people who think I am not making one utter bit of sense and I'm completely out there too, and that's fine. Everyone's entitled to their opinion, but having a proper discussion about this, figuring out what the actual legalities are of this, having our government, clearly define different things to guide us along.
In the absence of that too, I'm conscious that these types of conversations are very difficult for trans people to hear or those that love them.
Of course.
Because it feels like we're talking about, these are human beings.
I
these
don't
are people.
Want to
and unfortunately,
any transgender person. No.
Yeah,
I wouldn't that's
want
not what I'm here to do. It's not a personal thing.
That, but my point is that the way the conversation is had, it's actually quite damaging. It could be potentially quite damaging. Not that I'm on about. This is still talking to the fact that we're not having a full open and. A lot of stuff was introduced and a lot of stuff is coming online in the curriculum, and I think society has moved slightly back in another direction, but it's not being talked about. You know what I mean? I just want to make sure that our policies and our attitudes and the way we're moving forward is actually representative of but also primarily that is the best thing for young people. I think we have to be absolutely certain that the things and the direction we're going now, particularly in areas around the curriculum that are coming in line now that were decided 3 or 4 years ago, to just make sure that we're doing the right thing. It may well be the right thing, but we just need to make sure that we're not doing things as the responsible adults that's actually damaging to children. Now, that talks to a wider issue, but that's what I just want to make sure. I don't know what the answer is, but I just hope we're doing the right thing, whatever we're doing. Okay, listen, Danielle.
Well, that's it. Yeah.
Thanks for your time this morning. I do appreciate it. A caller wants to know: have you any views about bullying going on the LGFA or any experience on that? I know this is the campaign that you're working on. Is that something that you came across in your playing days, or is it something that needs addressing, or maybe it's just one person who's having a particular experience?
Yeah, no, I personally have been very lucky then. I haven't come across that. I'm sure there's plenty of people talking away behind me back, maybe, but nobody's ever, I don't see that as an epidemic within the LGFA. That they're, you know. So.
No, I just wanted that texture to be heard as well. I appreciate it. Danielle, thanks very much for your time. Okay, that's Danielle Lochry there. Do you agree or disagree? As I say, really welcome all different points of views on these issues. 086 60 25,000. Fair play to her for speaking up, says a texter. Another is the mother of a keen LGFA player. I totally support Danielle. I wrote to the LGFA using the county's template and never received a response. The same unjust situation is being pushed around the world, and we must stay strong to keep women and girls sport for women and girls. Another, I'm seriously starting to wonder, where did all the feminists go? Here we are talking about biological males can play in women's sports, competing and winning in women and girls competitions. They can win Woman of the Year. They can win in women's beauties contests, model women's clothes, swimwear, and worse, remove mother woman from Article 42.1. The Constitution, I mean, seriously, ladies, is it not time to stand up for our girls and women? Okay, loads more comments coming in on that. I have to take a quick break. I'll be back in about 3.5 minutes.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook, and at highlandradio.com.
This week's show is brought to you by the Highland Hooligan Saloon. Join us this September in the sunny Saloon for a week of live entertainment with Ireland's leading country artists, dinner each evening and plenty of crack. Sun, Saloon and due this September. For booking information, go to the outlet on highlandradio.com.
Well, Grace, how are you today?
I'm good. I've just been down to the Made to Measure Fireplaces showroom in Creasla. They have an incredible selection of over 40 colours for kitchen worktops. And guess what? For a limited time, they're offering a 40% discount on any electric fire when you purchase a worktop there.
40%? That's an amazing deal, Grace.
Absolutely. And trust me, if the discount alone doesn't sway you, their huge selection of fireplaces, stoves, wood pellet burners, beams and stone cladding certainly will.
Contact Made to Measure Fireplaces Creasla on 074 91 38 365 on Facebook, Instagram and on mtmfireplaces.ie.
It all begins with a thump as the needle nestles into a deep valley of vinyl. Sizzle and crackle turns into fizzle and scratch, and the mesmerizing rotations of pop and hiss and...
Ah, the crackle of a vinyl record. Just one of the ordinary sounds rediscovered by Sean. Whatever sounds you've lost, our hearing experts could help you find them again. Search Specsavers Hearing.
The new year is here, but don't forget about the old tax year. Log on to Revenue's My Account to check your end-of-year position and claim any tax credits you are entitled to. If you're due a refund, you'll get it within days. If you owe us money, we'll work with you on payment options. My Account. It's quick, it's easy, and it's free.
Indulge in a romantic getaway at the Radisson Blu Letterkenny. Experience an enticing romantic package starting at €239. Relish a Valentine's dinner at just $39.95 per person. Or share cherished memories with an exclusive voucher. Book online or call 9194444. Valentine's Day dinner is served on the 14th, 16th and 17th at the Radisson Blu Letterkenny.
This week's show is brought to you by the Highland Hooligan Saloon. Join us this September in the sunny Saloon for a week of live entertainment with Ireland's leading country artists, dinner each evening and plenty of crack. Sun, Saloon and due this September. For booking information, go to the outlet on highlandradio.com.
The big winter sale is now on at Ben Sweeney Euronics in Letterkenny and Dunloe, with the Samsung Jet 60 cordless vacuum cleaner reduced to €219. Cook family meals up to 65% faster with the new Ninja Foodie Flex Drawer air fryer for only €259. And the Beko 8kg A-rated washing machine with a 10-year parts warranty down to $399. Save big in the Euronics winter sale now in Ben Sweeney Euronics, Port Road, Letterkenny and the shopping centre, Dunloe.
In 1869, a dreadful new statistic was born in Ireland, the world's first road death. Since then, thousands of our loved ones have been added to the list of people who have lost their lives on our roads. That list of names does not have to keep growing, because together we can bring an end to road deaths, starting now. Make life-saving changes today, and you will help Ireland achieve Vision Zero. No road deaths or serious injuries by 2050. Learn more at rsa.ie.
Highland Radio are celebrating another birthday. We are inviting you to join us for our Highland Radio Birthday Bash on Tuesday the 19th of March in the Mount Errigal Hotel. Joined by the one and only Margot, myself, David James, plus special guests Brendan Quinn, Declan Ernie and Patrick Feeney. This is a night not to be missed. Tickets on sale now. Why not treat yourself to one of our package deals, including dinner, bed and breakfast, plus your ticket to the show. For more information, visit the outlet at highlandradio.com or give us a call on 074 91 25,000. We'll see you at the Highland Radio Birthday Bash.
Highland Radio weather updates brought to you by Grant. Building a new home? Choose Grant's A++ rated Airona air to water heat pump and Uflex underfloor heating. Visit grant.ie.
Cold, wet and blustery today with outbreaks of rain, sleet and snow spreading from the south this morning. Some accumulations of snow are likely, especially over high ground. Highest temperatures of 2 to 4 degrees. Now, high ground refers to above sea level more than mountains, by the way. So when we talk of high ground, Drumkeen, Letterkenny, and so on and so forth, different places, you may well see snow. It's sleeting here at the mountaintop in Letterkenny, and it does look like it's going to take hold. Councillor Paul Canning is chair of Donegal County Council's Strategic Planning Policy Committee, and he joins us on the programme now. Good morning to you, Paul.
Good morning, Greg. How are you?
I'm good to have you on the show. Now, you say members of the council are insisting that the local authorities' traditional family ties policy be maintained in the new county development plan. I presume this is about, who can build a house and where.
Yeah, you're 100% right. Yeah, we have scenarios, and we feel as local councils that the OPR and the national guidelines is closing in on us. And so far as they don't want people to build out in the countryside, and they're changing policies and they're bringing in, these small policies in through the back door, in our opinion. And we want to just stick to our guns and say there's a policy at the minute within Donegal where it seems to be working okay for us. It has worked this last 5 or 10 years, where if a person wants to build in Dromahal and they have ties to that area, and maybe they have been away for a period of time and they come back to their parents' or their grandparents' home, and they want to build in a field next to them, we're still allowing that to happen. What could happen is if a person now, if they can't make money off the land that they're serving, i.e. a farmer, that they're asking those people to move into their closest town and build there or buy a house there. I accept, and we all accept, that we have to look after our smaller towns, but not at the detriment to our rural landscape and our countryside.
At the same time, the motivation isn't to look after our smaller towns. The motivation is to urbanise the population, really, because that fits in with the plan in terms of walking, cycling, public transport, the provision of services. It's not really. If I thought you could maybe, I know you just said it sort of in passing, but it's not really about looking after Carrigans. It's more really about stopping people living in the country.
Yeah, that's right. And financially as well, you see, you've had a month ago, and you've mentioned sleep there this morning again. If people weren't living out in rural Donegal, we wouldn't have as many roads to solve. If we were all in the larger towns, and so there's an economic side to it as well, where it's not financially viable to solve all the roads.
What is the problem? Sorry, I beg your pardon, Paul. I was going to ask, what is the problem in retaining the family ties policy? Is there not consensus amongst councillors, or is it something that could be overruled? Like, why, where if the majority of elected reps believe the traditional family ties policy should be maintained or retained, what's the problem?
We have no problem with it. It's when it goes up the road. The man says to the office of the planning regulator, he's saying that national guidelines wants us to move into our larger towns and our larger cities, and that's basically where it's coming from. And there's a whole process involved, as you're saying. This plan is never going to be adopted, but it takes 2 years nearly from the offset to get to this point. And now we're at a point where we're refusing we have done a draft plan, and in fairness to the draft plan that we sent to the planning regulator. We were happy enough with it. If there was going to be any changes, they would be very minor. But the Office of the Planning Regulator has come back with a raft of submissions, and the county manager or the CEO then has to look at those submissions and take them on board.
Right, so
and they
just
make a recommendation.
Okay, so just so we understand the process. So say councillors are resolute and they say, no, we know you've sent this back to us. We know you want us to replace traditional family ties with economical social links to the area. So we're sending it back to you as was. Does that create a standoff? Can they overrule that on a national level? What is the process from here on?
Yeah. What happens then is basically what we got. There was a public consultation there. You have 3 stages. You could say, right. Just give you a quick overview. Stage 1 was a pre-draft preparation. Stage 2 is the draft plan. That's the plan we are now looking at. That's the draft plan. What happened then? There was a public consultation on that draft plan. The public made submissions. That then the chief executive does a report. And then we, as members, can propose amendments going against or going like that. Is sent to the Office of the Planning Regulator. He makes his recommendations then, and that comes back to us again. We can go against those and go against the chief executive report. We can go against both their recommendations. Say we want to keep it as it is. What happens then is they do out their what we have stated. That goes back up to the Office of the Planning Regulator, and it goes to the Minister for Planning, Kieran O'Donnell, right? So they can turn around and they can overrule us at that point in time. And then people say, oh, it's your plan. And it's not our plan, because at times we can get overruled in these scenarios. And the language that they use, if we'll say Greg Hughes says, Paul, I need extra car parking up here at Highland Radio.
Mm-hmm.
And I say, well, listen, Highland Radio needs an extra car park up here. I put that in as a submission. What comes back then is said, oh, we have to do an appropriate assessment on that site in case it creates flooding, and in case it creates deterioration of our waterways, in case it has
I know what you're saying. So really, this is kind of another example, though, where the local voice is potentially being ignored and overruled. I mean, the almost 40 is sitting around there debating this and trying to form policy, and really, it's a planner in Dublin that gets the final say.
Well, that's we the fact that it goes to the minister, there is a little bit of respect given to his councillors, for a better word, or the political side, and he can look at it from a democratic situation. But you're right, yes, it goes to the Office of the Planning Regulator.
And very finally, just in a couple of minutes, if you don't mind, because we're right up against 10, the county development plan, the biggest issue in this county at the moment for many, many people is defective concrete. Why is there just only a passing reference to that? Should there not be more detail, more information, more accommodation of that national crisis that's focused here in Donegal in our own county development plan?
Yeah, there is the situation with the national, the planning. The defective blocks is a material deterioration, and it's not a planning policy deterioration. So a person that is a house that is affected with mica, they're exempt from planning. So if they're building like for like, they can go ahead and build without planning. So they're exempted under the planning regulation. So regarding the county development plan and where it goes, there is no policy to say, because we don't need a policy for a person that wants to rebuild their house.
Okay, so you're satisfied that this issue is as such, as it's categorised, that you're not disappointed that there's not more reference to it in the county development plan, or you're not surprised there's not more reference to it. That's your position, is it?
I'm not surprised, because if I asked you, right, Greg, or anybody, where do you want it brought in? You know what I mean? It's the planning. This is planning policy, and that's the we have the Letterkennys and the Buncranners and the Cairndonas. And we have areas designated for residential, primary residential, secondary residential. We have those areas.
Okay, sorry to lump that one on you with a short period of time to go, but thank you very much for that. That's Councillor Paul Canning, Chair of Donegal County Council's Strategic Planning Policy Committee. Back after the news and obituary notices.
This week's show is brought to you by the Highland Hooligan Saloon. Join us this September in the sunny Saloon for a week of live entertainment with Ireland's leading country artists, dinner each evening and plenty of crack. Sun, Saloon and you this September. For booking information, go to the outlet on highlandradio.com.
Weanling trade on fire. For more in your Irish Farmers Journal, here's Paul Mooney.
With weanling prices climbing, we look at what's driving the trade. We analyse the farmer protests and political concessions across Europe. Cow weights, the latest sticking point in ICBF row. London Investment Fund snaps up 4 Irish solar farms. The latest on the water quality targets your farm will have to meet. Is paying farmers to take slurry cheaper than renting land? And as lambing begins, our focus has all you need to know.
All inside the Irish Farmers Journal, on sale now.
Are you planning a home renovation project and don't know where to start? Foy & Company are here to help with free in-store interior design and paint colour consultants all this month. Our interior designers will turn your dreams into a reality. We're the largest stockist of interior and exterior paint in the Northwest, and we have free delivery on furniture purchased this month to Donegal, Derry and Tyrone. Foy & Company in Ballybuffet, Letterkenny and online at foys.ie.
Enhance your skills with SafeTech's part-funded training programs. At SafeTech, we provide courses including first aid, roadworks, people moving and handling, confined spaces, electrofusion and machinery training for Ireland and UK sites. Also online programs such as water hygiene, construction supervisors, safety reps and much more. If you have a group for training, SafeTech will go to you. Contact SafeTech today at safetech.ie and take the first step towards upskilling and safety compliance.
Live, on air, online and on the Highland Radio app. This is Highland Radio News.
Good morning, I'm Michaela Clark with the news at 10 o'clock. The Taoiseach says Gardaí are conducting a significant operation this morning in connection with arson attacks at buildings potentially earmarked for asylum seekers. Leo Varadkar says officers have carried out dawn raids and arrested a number of people. It follows numerous fires at properties in recent months, including one at a building in Lakeslip in County Kildare yesterday, which was rumoured to be housing international protection applicants. Leo Varadkar says Gardaí are out in force this morning.
There is a very significant operation underway this morning. The Gardaí will be out later on and they'll make a full statement on it. But there have been a number of raids this morning. There have been arrests. So I am confident that we will be bringing people to justice for committing these crimes. Arson is a very serious crime, punishable by up to 10 years.
The Sinn Féin president has clarified remarks about a united Ireland being within touching distance. It's after DUP leader Jeffrey Donaldson dismissed the claims, saying Mary Lou McDonald must have the longest arms in Ireland. Speaking this morning, she says she didn't mean it would happen immediately.
And when I say unity is within touching distance, I said in historic terms, I don't mean that it's happening next week or next month. So you don't have to have those long arms that Jeffrey refers to. But what I am saying and what I firmly believe is in this decade, we will have those referendums.
Early Childhood Ireland is calling on all Donegal Oireachtas members to support a new single agency for early years and school-age care. The body has today issued all Oireachtas members with its policy proposal outlining the importance of the establishment of such an agency to support the over 8,200 children enrolled in childcare settings in Donegal. Early Childhood Ireland says the current system is fragmented. CEO Theresa Heaney says a commitment previously given by government to provide a single agency for the sector must be honoured.
We've been calling for a single agency since 2019 and we were really pleased in the last programme for government that the Department of Children and the entire government committed to establishing a single agency. But I suppose what we're really concerned about at the moment is that we are potentially facing an election very soon. So we believe that it's now really important that government and all of the opposition parties commit to establishing this early years agency.
A public meeting is to be held in Milford next week to discuss the redevelopment of the former Reformed Presbyterian Church. The Milford and District Resource Centre received the building from the Reformed Presbyterian Congregation in Milford in November of 2022, and grant security date have allowed it to partially reopen. A €200,000 private donation has been made towards the restoration of the former church, which is now known as the Gallo Glass Community Centre, and it will go towards carrying out key repairs and development works. Declan Meehan, manager of MDRC, is inviting people to the meeting on Monday at 7 p.m. in the community centre, where findings of conservation plan, feasibility study and public consultation will be presented. 3 Donegal tourism attractions have been recognised at the CIE Tours Award of Excellence, which took place in Dublin this week. The company brought 25,000 tourists to Ireland last year, and based on their customers' feedback forms, they presented awards to the Slieve League Visitor Centre, Glenveigh and Donegal Castle. Donald Kavanagh has more.
The Slieve League Cliffs Centre was honoured with the overall CIE Tours Excellence Award for Best Visit. The citation said visitors with CIE Tours highly rated the hospitable Donegal welcome and the wealth of information shared, as well as the breathtaking views and surrounding scenery that showcases the incredible beauty of Donegal. Glenveigh Castle National Park and Donegal Castle both received merit awards at the event, with the company saying the awards reflect their high standards and popularity with visitors. CIE Tours interim CEO Stephen Cotter congratulated the Donegal Award winners, saying year on year huge effort is made to improve and enhance the county's offerings based on the feedback provided from the company's annual visitor surveys. He concluded that so far US and UK bookings in 2024 are ahead of expectations.
Weather now, a Stanish yellow snow and ice warning is in place for the northwest today, meaning it will be cold, wet and blustery with outbreaks of rain, sleet and snow spreading. Some accumulations of snow are likely, especially over high ground. Highest temperatures of 2 to 4 degrees. That's all from Highland Radio News for now. We'll be back with an update again at 11 o'clock. Until then, you can keep up to date with the latest local news on our website, highlandradio.com. Good morning. The obituary notices for this Thursday morning, February the 8th. The death has taken place of Joseph Wilkie, West Palm Beach, Florida, and formerly from Dromore, Letterkenny. Wake today from 12 noon until Rosary at 9 o'clock. Family time after the Rosary and on the morning of the funeral, please. Funeral from there tomorrow morning at 10:15, going to St Junan's Cathedral, Letterkenny, for 11 o'clock Requiem Mass, which can be viewed on churchservices.tv. Interment afterwards in the family plot in New Leck Cemetery. Family flowers only, please. Donations in lieu of flowers if desired to the Kevin Bell Repatriation Trust, care of any family member. And the death has occurred of Fonzie Crawford, 235 St Junan's Terrace, Rafo, County Donegal. Funeral leaving his late residence this afternoon at 22:02, going to St Junan's Church, Rafo, for 2 o'clock Requiem Mass, with burial afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. The funeral mass can be viewed online via the parish webcam. Family flowers only, please. Donations in lieu if desired to Cancer Care West, care of any family member or Kelly's funeral directors. For family information and more details regarding wakes and funerals, please go to highlandradio.com.
For when a right turn becomes a wrong turn. Get up to €70 off car insurance with An Post Insurance at onpostinsurance.ie or call us today. €70 or 20% discount will be applied, whichever is lower, subject to a minimum premium of €355 or €345, depending on policy underwriter. Applied consecutively for new customers only. Acceptance criteria, terms and conditions apply. One Direct Ireland Limited, trading as An Post Insurance, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland. One Direct Ireland Limited is a wholly owned subsidiary of An Post. Best price online.
And now, IMRO's 2023 Best Local or Regional News Programme, The Voice of the Northwest, the 9 till noon show with Greg Hughes.
And you're very welcome back to the programme, or good morning if you're just after joining us. Some of your comments coming in on some of the issues that we've discussed throughout the course of this morning. Hi Greg, I'm not a GEA, or I'm not in the GEA, but that lady is 100% dead on correct for standing up for her principles, and she is to be congratulated for not going along with Dublin group thinking. This is very important. I wish to commend Danielle. She's spot on. Well done for speaking out. Finally, someone says it as it is. Danielle, 100% correct, says another. Biological males are not girls or women. Biological females are not boys or men. But of course, the law of the land is such that they can be recognised as such. Greg, trans is appearing as a big issue in sports and needs to be sorted out fairly, as it's unfair that a man with all his physical advantages should not be able to compete in sports with females. Imagine a top one-armed female surfer, arm bitten off by a tiger shark, has now stopped competing because she spoke out about trans women now competing against her. Those making GEA rules should take notice. People are silenced because if they speak out about this unfairness, they appear transphobic. I know if I spoke out publicly, I'd lose my job. Well spoken and well done for trying to open up this conversation. People seem to be afraid to speak publicly as the attacks they receive from the LGBT community is unbelievable. They've cowered people into silence, and it's a powerful tactic, but players in the US are finally starting to speak out and refusing to play. Another, that's nonsense, needs to stop. Men joining women's sport is wrong and very disturbing from a female's point of view. On to some other comments here. Re the Sinn Féin drop in the polls. Could it be that if the party wants us to believe a woman can be a man or vice versa, what else will they fib about? Greg, what's the problem with Irish politicians that white people are in the Dáil in Europe? We are a white race. Did she reference pale, stale and male, actually, I think was the phraseology. 20% of the population may not be white. So if society changes, surely it has to be reflective of the society, does it not? That's a question. I have issues with our government bringing in so many when there is no place to put them. It's unfair to both them and locals trying to get a home. However, I think it's worth setting buildings on fire. That is not the answer. And just in relation to that, by the way, the Gardaí have made arrests. If you're commenting on that, you might be interested in this information. I'll read it to you. 3 individuals have been arrested by Gardaí investigating an arson incident at a premises in Ringsend, Dublin on the 31st of December. Okay, this is not the one overnight. As part of this investigation, 4 residential properties were searched under warrant this morning. 2 males aged in their 30s and 50s and female in her 20s were arrested. A number of evidential items were seized. Items of evidential value, including electronic devices in the course of the operation. It's quite a serious crime, arson, I'm sure you're aware. And following a conviction, it can lead to imprisonment, life imprisonment. I wouldn't want to be the first few through the door facing those charges at the moment. They should never have done it in the first place, of course. Leo Varadkar's misleading the Irish people yet again. The states, like Denmark, have the opt-out of EU immigration policy under the Lisbon Treaty. Why would the Irish taxpayer foot the bill for asylum seekers when we have no legal obligation to do so? Morning, Greg. Couldn't help but notice you didn't mention the Aontú party amongst the recent polls. Again, suppose this is what we expect now from the Donegal establishment, favourite radio station, especially with elections looming, which is quite an interesting take on this programme. I haven't been called establishment radio station for long. Aontú is very well represented on this programme, by the way, with 2 of their representatives in this, not being defensive, but look, you said it, 2 of them being in the, 2 of their members being on the programme regularly, and indeed the party leader being on the show regularly. I'm trying to find where they are now because I was actually reading the front page of a newspaper. I'm not sure if it doesn't focus on any other parties, but I don't see. Let me see. Sorry about the noise. Going through a newspaper here to satisfy this listener. Turn to page 11. Okay, I'm going to page 11 and I'm going to tell you, so you're not upset, that... Oh, there's nothing on page 11. Oh, I haven't a clue. Anyway, Aontú's not mentioned on the front of the paper, so that's why I didn't mention it. Okay, thank you. Anyway, good to hear I'm being described as an establishment show. Good morning, Greg. Do you think the Irish government should put the UK on a dangerous list, seeing as that poor man died, got the measles when he travelled over there? I don't know. Well, my thoughts are with him and his family, but I take your point. Hi, Greg. Great show as always. Quick question. With the lack of taxis in Inishowen, why is not Uber allowed to operate in Ireland or Donegal? The service is great when you go on holiday, etc. You know what the bill is before you book them, and you don't have to tip them. Whoever thought of that needs a cigar. Well, Uber is available in Ireland. I think it's down to the drivers whether or not they operate it here. If you go down, the thing about it is though in Dublin when you use it, there's one taxi called I'm Free or We're Free or something like that there, and Uber. And then if you get the taxi on the street, they're all the same price. There's no real saving in Ireland because of the way it's all been regulated or the way the prices have been set. But Uber does operate in Dublin for sure. I know, I've seen them there. But it's the same drivers that have the Uber app, the I'm Free app, or they park at a taxi rank app, and the prices are all the same. I remember having a conversation with someone down there, a taxi driver, when I was down there at a concert. There used to be one Uber taxi. I remember seeing one Uber taxi that would pop up in and around Letterkenny. So it's not that they're not allowed, as far as I'm aware. It's just they choose not to operate up here. Hi, Greg. How are Ain2 doing in the polls? Great alternative to other parties. If Maria Walsh refers to pale, meaning white skin, then that is racist. The other comments are discriminatory and ageist, says that listener there. Okay, back with more after these.
It's time for Vision Ireland Bingo on Highland Radio.
It's Thursday, the 8th of February, Jackpot Day. You're playing for the jackpot prize of €8,200 on the pink sheet. The reference number is S9. It's game number 6. The jackpot number is 67. This number can come out in any position from the next 10 numbers drawn. And now, here are your daily numbers. 72, 88, 42, 57, 84, 74, 45, 1, 65, and finally 85. Phone your claim to 910-4833 before 8 tonight, leaving your name, contact number and the name of the shop where you purchased your book, and we'll call you back the next working day. Get all your Vision Ireland bingo information at highlandradio.com.
In 1951, Michael and Maureen O'Hara baked their first loaf in Foxford, County Mayo. Now O'Hara's is launching Baker 51 in their honour. An authentic sourdough loaf made pure and simple with no added yeast. 72 years in the baking. One bite and you'll see why true taste takes time.
And just like that, another big lotto jackpot is won. For somebody, somewhere, the dream of it could be you has come true. But the big winners are National Lottery good causes. Because while that lotto jackpot was building, Lotto and Lotto Plus players raised over €25 million for good causes across Ireland. €25 million. So on behalf of thousands of good causes, thank you for playing. You make this possible. The National Lottery. Support responsibly.
Crawford Tiles in Castlefin extends their famous bathroom refits to the entire hospitality sector, transforming 10 bathrooms in just 10 days. Their service include full gutting, replumbing and retiling. Unbelievable prices with hotel recommendations available on request. To inquire, call Crawford Tiles on 07491 43942.
This week's show is brought to you by the Highland Hooligan Saloon. Join us this September in the sunny Saloon for a week of live entertainment with Ireland's leading country artists, dinner each evening and plenty of crack. Sun, Saloon and you this September. For booking information, go to the outlet on highlandradio.com.
Now, International Epilepsy Day 2024 takes place this Monday, February the 12th. The day is Epilepsy Ireland's biggest awareness day of the year. Epilepsy is a condition which affects over 45,000 people in Ireland, so that's at 1 in 100. We're joined on the programme by a couple of guests. Laura Hardaker. Good morning to you, Laura. Hope I've pronounced your surname correct.
Yeah, just about. Yeah, Hardaker. Thanks,
Hardaker,
Thanks
okay,
for having
not
me
far
on.
off it. And Paddy McGagan, Gahagan, I beg your pardon.
McGeoghan, Greg. I have Donegal twang to mine as well, so
this is
good to
not
talk to you.
This is not a good start, both of you. I'm so sorry about that. Okay. Paddy, talk to us about the focus of this year's International Epilepsy Day.
Yeah, so listen, we're building a campaign saying how important it is for the public to learn more about seizure first aid. As you mentioned, there's 45,000 people living with epilepsy in Ireland, making it one of the most common neurological conditions in the country. To put that in a Donegal context, where we'd estimate in around 1,400 people living with epilepsy in Donegal. So it's a condition that's much closer to home than what you might think. And knowing vital information such as seizure first aid is very, very important. So our campaign is highlighting our key words around seizure first aid to the public, which are time, safe, and stay. Time the seizure, keep the person safe, and stay with them. That's what we're trying to promote. That's what we want people to learn. and all outlined on our website, www.epilepsy.ie.
Yeah, we'll talk about that more in a moment. Laura, a professional baker from the south of the county in Bundoran, where you live with your husband and children. You were an adult, or very early in your adult years, before you had your first seizure.
That's right. Yeah, I was 18 or 19. I was actually in New Jersey on my J1 when I had my first seizure, and that was a full convulsion, tonic-clonic seizure would be the medical term. With two of my friends, when you're 18, I know you said it's an adult, but you're really only a child.
Yeah, of course.
And you're far from home, and my friends didn't know what was happening. Their words were that we thought you were dying, Laura. It must have been terrifying. And then waking up in hospital and the doctor saying, "Okay, we're just going to do a CT scan now to eliminate the possibility of a tumor," to be told all of this. And then anyway, I was released, or discharged at least from hospital, but I had another one very quickly afterwards that evening. So then my father came over and took me home, and that was the end of the J1. But that was also the end of kind of my traveling, my independence, at that age where a lot of friends might have gone on to do another, stint of traveling the following year. I was a bit scared. Okay, I didn't have any more seizures until, it was about 3 months later when I had another seizure at home and I was finally put on medication. Because they didn't put me on medication after the first two, because apparently everybody is entitled to one seizure event. And even though I had two that time in New Jersey, it would have been considered the same event. It could have been brought on by something else. But because I had another one then when I came home, a couple of months later, that was the diagnosis of epilepsy then.
You talked of the type of seizure that you had whilst you were travelling. Maybe the majority of people out there, if they were to describe a seizure, may come up with sort of, one thing they might see typical, but there are different types of seizures and they can present in different ways. Could you talk me through that a little bit?
Yeah, and I was probably, 6 years into having a diagnosis before I even knew that. I thought because my big seizures, so the seizures where you go unconscious on the ground, I thought because those had stopped in 2011, I hadn't had one from between 2011 and 2016. I didn't have one of those seizures. I was only on one medication. I was very happy that we'd gotten up to the level that worked. And I thought I was seizure free. Possibly was, but it's hard to know because then, I had another big seizure then in 2016. Back to a neurologist in Beaumont that time. And they started asking me, and do you ever have any other types of seizures? And I said, well, what do you mean other types of seizures? I didn't know there were any. Well, do you ever feel dizzy or do you ever get blank spells? And I said, well, actually, sometimes, yeah, okay. And they said, well, that's a seizure. You can't drive. I was driving at that stage, so you shouldn't be driving. And then people started to notice them. So maybe they just became more frequent, because I can't believe that I would have gone 5 years having these little blank episodes with people not noticing.
And how does it look from the outside on,
so from
Laura?
the outside, so if I was talking to you right now, like let's say we were face to face, I would stop talking. I might get a blank look in my eyes. One eye might start to twitch, might have very small movement in my hand. I would be unresponsive. So if you spoke to me, I wouldn't be aware. So it's called a seizure with impaired awareness. But those seizures can also happen with awareness. So the person can, I don't get those ones, but can still have the sensation that there's something happening.
And
when you fully aware of that.
When you come out of that, are you aware that something's just happened?
No, I'm not. So so that's what's difficult as well when you're trying to register. Obviously I keep a seizure diary. So I wouldn't be aware. So because I would spend a lot of time, like you said, I'm a baker. I bake from home. I used to have a cafe. I used to have my own cafe for 4 years in Bundoran, Hardy Baker, but that closed during COVID. But at the same time now, having two children, and also I feel like the seizures have gotten more frequent, and I just can't handle when my seizures happen. It's definitely related to a stress issue or a tiredness issue. And I mean, obviously running your own cafe, it was a lot of stress.
So
lots of working hours, but sorry.
And in a way, the focal impaired seizures are not that there's a hierarchy, but even more debilitating because it kind of rules more stuff out. Like, you know, if you're seizure free of what people might see as the atypical seizure, what have you, the frequency or infrequency of these types of seizures create a great deal of uncertainty for you, I'd imagine, unless you get used to that, just going about your everyday life.
Yeah, you're right. And you're right as well about the hierarchy. I mean, somebody asked me recently, oh, are you still having seizures? You know, someone I hadn't seen in a while. And I said, well, yeah, I do get those. I do get my impaired awareness seizures. So I would go blank for maybe 30, 60 seconds. It is dangerous then, I think, that I don't know when I come out of it. So I don't know if it has just happened. But anyway, sorry. But the person said to me, oh, that's not too bad. Okay, at least you're only getting those ones. And I said, well, no, it is. Like, it is still very bad because it's still hugely impacts on my day-to-day quality of life. Okay, you always have it in the back of your head. How am I feeling today? Sometimes I would get a feeling that your head is full, like physically full, that I know I put myself in a danger zone. Have I done too much? So it affects, from that perspective, then the type of job that I can have. So I can't be in a very stressful job, I would say. And another reason for that is, excuse me, because I can't drive, because I'm not allowed to drive with the condition, it really limits my employment opportunities. But apart from that, then, in terms of quality of life, it massively limits your independence.
Yeah. And then tiredness and overtiredness is of such a broad church as well. You know, can I ask you just in relation to that about becoming a mum? Because obviously, you know, some of the symptoms of pregnancy, you know, it can be stressful, it can be tiring. But also that I'm thinking too, you know, after you've had the children, the fear maybe that you might be holding one of your children or your child and have any of these types of seizures or what have you. Was that difficult to deal with? Does that put an extra sense of pressure on? Or, you know, being a mum and a new mum particularly?
In terms of the seizures and the type of seizures and frequency and all of that, it actually stayed the same throughout pregnancy. My gynecologist at the time told me that it would actually be more dangerous to come off the medication than to stay on it in terms of risks to the baby. There is one medication in particular, but that's been withdrawn now. It's not prescribed to women because it's the dangers of, well, what it would do to the developing fetus. So my seizures kind of were at the same frequency. But yes, then when you're a new mother, and the reason I'm here in London now is because I'm with my sister. She has a 3-week-old baby, and it's bringing it all back to me. You know, I mean, you're up all the time, you're exhausted. So of course I would have been putting myself at higher risk of seizure. So I mean,
were you concerned in nursing or holding the children?
Yeah, the advice that I was given was when you're feeding and nursing the baby, be on the floor, you know, where possible, or be if you're in the bed, be in the middle of the bed with lots of cushions around you. But I mean, one happened. So my youngest is he'll be 2 in April, and I had one of my usual the types of seizures that I have, my impaired awareness seizures, a couple of months ago, and I was just holding him in the kitchen, but because I stay still and do nothing happened. You know, I was just holding him, went into the blankness that came back after about 30, 40 seconds. Didn't know what had happened, but there was another adult in the room, thankfully at the time. But, you know, that could happen when there isn't an adult in the room. So I think what I would say as well about those impaired awareness seizures, where it might look like somebody has just gone into a daydream or a stare. One happened just in the last couple of months where I was out walking with the 2 boys in the buggy, and I obviously don't know what happened because I didn't feel it coming on, but next thing I knew there were 3 people around me, and they said that the buggy had fallen over.
Oh, yeah. So tough, yeah.
But I did, you know, but they said I hadn't fallen over. They didn't know what was happening. They had called an ambulance because obviously they came running when they saw that the buggy had fallen. They came running to help me.
Yeah.
Must have tried to communicate with me in some way, and I was non-responsive. So they didn't know what to do and called an ambulance. So just so that people are aware that that's a type of seizure.
Sure. And
something else I was told.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask you too, just in terms of sort of the diagnosis, because we would talk lots of different conditions here and people know what's going on and they get a diagnosis and then there's some sort of a relief, like there's a name on the problem that they have. But is epilepsy a little bit different in that you're told you have epilepsy, but why did it happen in 18? You know, why do you get different types of seizures?
Yeah.
Is it frustrating in the why? Like, why me? Is it genetic? Is it not genetic? Is it something I'm doing or not doing? Is it something I did or don't do? Like, does that make it a difficult condition to live with, those unanswered questions?
I know what you mean. Yeah, completely unanswered. Like, if I asked a doctor, you know, I have a diagnosis of temporal lobe epilepsy, cause unknown. That's literally my diagnosis, you know. So because there's no, you know, having had all MRIs and everything, there's no scar tissue, nothing happened to me at birth. It's not in the family. I do believe I think there's a lot of research happening at the moment and they're discovering that there might be some genetic connection, but anyway, that's not the case in my case. So the cause is unknown. Yeah, it's a little, you just kind of have to accept it.
Yeah.
I did ask one of the neurologists when I was in Bowman, is there any particular reason why I might have come on at that age? And he said, well, no, we don't know. If it hasn't come on, if it's not present from birth, the most common times for it to just spring up out of the blue is during puberty or early adulthood, so the ages of 18 to 25. But I guess those are just statistics, you know, they still don't know why.
They could probably have sat there and says it's also quite common. It pops up when you're 25 or you're 23 or you're 12 or whatever. Yeah, okay. Yeah. And before I go back to Paddy, and Paddy, thanks for your patience, but the whole purpose of this, I suppose, is to also get an opportunity to speak to someone who is affected. In terms of the medication, that's constantly monitored as far as I understand. Are there any other interventions, surgical or otherwise, that are options that aren't, or are they experimental, or are they proven, or are they a risk, or what's the situation, Laura?
Okay, well, there is a huge list of medications. Like I don't know how many medications there are, and it's a case of trial and error for a lot of people. I was on one for a long time. And then a second one was introduced, but I was still having these, which stopped the bigger seizures, but I was still having my impaired awareness seizures. And so then there was like, okay, will we introduce a third drug? But my neurologist told me quite straight out, if two drugs haven't worked, and if we're trying a third one, you're talking at about a 10% chance that this is going to make you seizure free, which is obviously the goal. So he said the next intervention really that we would recommend is surgery. And I said, no way am I ever going to let somebody, open my head up. So I was put on a list for EEG monitoring in Beaumont. There are 4 beds in Beaumont. I think there are 2 beds in Cork, if I'm right there. So that's it in the whole country for this EEG monitoring. So I was waiting for about 3 years. Now that was through COVID as well. So I know that would have extended the wait 3 to 4 years even from when I was put on the list. When I did this last year, I was in the ward it took about 8 days, just in the bed with hooked up to EEG, HD cameras around the bed, and they reduce your medication and they sleep deprive you. So obviously most people's triggers would be tiredness and obviously non-compliance with medication. So yeah, within about 5 days, I started having seizures. So they were able to register on the EEG what was happening and where the seizures were coming from. And on the back of that, then they've put me forward as a surgical candidate. So I feel very lucky actually at this stage that, because since then we've tried 2 more drugs. Not happening. I was on 4 drugs at one point.
What are you told about the risks, stroke success rate potential of the surgical intervention?
Well, I was told in terms of risks, risk of a stroke, less than 1%, risk of brain damage, less than 1%. And they said the reason these are the surgeons in Beaumont, the reason they were giving me those numbers was because no surgeon is infallible.
Yeah.
But it has never happened in that hospital. So, that obviously gave me confidence. And then in terms of success rates, they wouldn't actually answer that question, but said, from what I've read and everything, it's 70 to 80%.
Wow, okay.
To achieve seizure freedom, which is obviously the goal. So 70 to 80% is it's good enough for me actually to take the risk.
For sure.
So they said, do you want to go away and think about it? And I said, no, we'll just
go ahead
so
with
I'm on the list for that. So
just one question before I go back to Paddy. The focal impaired seizures, how long they last? You talked of them lasting 30, 40 seconds for you, I believe. Can they be longer? And during your research or you've spoken to, can they last longer or for a less amount of time per person?
I can't answer that with any great confidence. I mean, for me, I only know from my witnesses, because I don't know how long it's happening for, and then there might be a time then post, well, it's called post, when you're coming out of the seizure, that you're still not quite, you're kind of rebooting, actually was a term that Paddy said to me, and it makes a lot of sense. It's like as if you've shut down and then you're kind of slowly rebooting, come back to yourself. But I'd say they probably can be shorter or longer, but in my experience, I've been told they're 30 to 40 seconds. Or shorter, but then I might respond coming out of the seizure, but they're
certainly not 2 or 3 minutes if you exclude the sort of full reboot time, to borrow your phrase there. Okay. No. Paddy, really interesting to hear from Laura, I think, and it answers a lot of questions and then throws up perhaps a lot of new information for people about the different types of seizures, how it can affect them, and just really the impact it can have on your life. It varies from individual to individual, but we've heard directly there from Laura the reality of her life with epilepsy.
Yeah, of course. I think Laura's just given a fantastic kind of overview of her life with epilepsy, and I think everyone listening will have a greater understanding of it because of it. And that's one of the keys to International Epilepsy Day. It's people don't want to hear from me talking about epilepsy, a learned experience. We need people talking about their lived experience. Because it's just so much more powerful. It helps people understand, and hopefully it'll help people go to our website now and learn more in advance of the big day, realise that it's a common condition, realise that there are ways you can help people. I think everything Laura said there is fantastic in terms of helping people understand the condition much, much more.
Yeah, and as you say, and also too, and it often comes up with, we can also often jump to a conclusion as to what's happening. And we see that with a number of medical conditions that we might give a wide berth because we presume it's something, or yourself, I don't need to give examples, I'm sure people can, but even Laura's experience of her focal impaired seizure whilst out with the buggy, for an example, people might walk past thinking something else is going on there rather than offering assistance. And also to perhaps, if I can describe it as the more common seizure that people would have, go through what we as the general public stroke population should do in a case like that.
Yeah, well, for both, really, it is the time safe stay message. But for the tonic-clonic, the convulsive seizure that you're talking about there, it's time the seizure goes over 5 minutes. It's potentially dangerous. Ambulance needs to be called. Keep the person safe. So that means cushion in their head, moving objects from around the person. So, for example, if they're in danger of hitting off a chair, move the chair, not the person. Another thing we always have to mention as well, Greg, is never put anything in the person's mouth during a seizure and never restrain them. Unfortunately, two massive myths when it comes to seizure first aid. And we have to talk about them and to dispel them, unfortunately.
So people, I do recall back in the day that people swallow their tongues or can swallow their tongues. That's why someone might try and intervene in that regard. You're saying don't do that.
Yeah, you can't swallow your tongue during a seizure. That's one of, I think it was probably previously taught that could happen.
Yeah.
And that's why it's out there. But no, you'll only do damage to the person themselves, trying to get in and get their tongue out, or do damage to yourself, because obviously the person will be down,
clenching.
And then just, I suppose, that final step of stay with the person throughout their seizure, talk gently to them, let them know what's happened, and and reassure them as they come to. Because
and do you sit them up post-seizure once it's clear that
just take the lead from the person as well. Like, they obviously put them into the recovery position. As Laura has described there, in terms of her own individual epilepsy, every person is individual. It might take people longer to recover. So just staying with them, letting them know what's happened, gently reassuring them, not standing over them, screaming at them, wondering what's happened. It can make the world of a difference as the person recovers or reboots, as myself and Laura have mentioned. So those words are time, safe, stay. Again, Greg, all outlined on the website, epilepsy.ie. And hopefully your listeners will see some of the messaging kind of out in national media. Obviously, it's great to be on Highland speaking about it today too, and through their social media channels over the day and week ahead.
A caller wants to know, Paddy, if you can give a brief explanation of what a complex partial seizure is.
It's kind of it's a bit like the seizures that Laura is talking about. Listen, I suppose the important message that we would have is that there's over 50 types of seizures, and we're not expecting the wider public to have an encyclopedic knowledge of each of them. But as Laura says, there's more than one. So being aware that there's more than one type of seizure for the reasons that you have outlined, not making assumptions, taking that extra second and talking to a person, and maybe making sure that there's a way that you can help.
Okay, and Laura, one of the other challenges that you've faced, and finally I'll let both of you go after this, is that even though that you weren't able to drive, even though you're under sort of ongoing medical care, unable to avail of free travel, hopefully that's going to change in the not too distant future. But not fair, I'm sure you would have felt.
Yeah, definitely not. No, it's brilliant, and I think that only was announced in the last budget there in October of last year. Is that right?
Actually, just
this July.
Just to add to that, Greg, actually as I come off this, we're going into the department actually to meet the minister about it, to discuss it a bit further. Listen, it was a really, really hard fought campaign to actually get that change made. But essentially what's going to be done in July is that people who are medically unfit to drive for at least a year can apply directly to the free travel scheme. No means test, just all they would need is medical evidence. And hopefully it'll make a big impact in people's lives in terms of helping access public transport, and remove that cost from them as well. So listen, we'll put an update up on the website after we.
All right, Paddy, thanks very much for your time. I really do appreciate it. And thank you to Laura. Best of luck, hopefully, in terms of getting that operation. Congratulations to your sister as well, of course.
Thank you.
And we appreciate your time.
And can I just say, Greg, as well, because I didn't get the chance, obviously, as I said, I do, I have a lack of independence because of not driving, but huge thank you as well to my friends and family who are so massively supportive around that. I was in the supermarket the other day and I was in a hurry. And I just had, it's about a 15-minute walk from my house, not too bad. But needed to get back before the 4-year-old got back from preschool. And there was somebody ahead of me at the till that I knew, and I said, you wouldn't mind when you just run me up. And of course they did, and everybody is willing to help. But it does make you feel that little bit more vulnerable, and the lack of independence it's something I'm used to now, but it's not pleasant. But anyway, thank you to everybody.
You cope with it, but you're not content with it as such. Okay, I get you. All right, thank you very much indeed for that. And hopefully, as I say, the operation goes well for you, and
thank you.
Things improve. Take care of yourself. Thank you. That's Laura Hardacre there, and Paddy McGagan there, and he's Advocacy and Communications Manager with Epilepsy Ireland.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook, and at highlandradio.com.
This week's show is brought to you by the Highland Hooligan Saloon. Join us this September in the sunny Saloon for a week of live entertainment with Ireland's leading country artists, dinner each evening and plenty of crack. Sun, Saloon and you this September. For booking information, go to the outlet on highlandradio.com.
Not all food is the same. Food that carries a quality mark means that it's been produced to Board Bia's highest quality standards, verified at every stage. It's reassuring to know that there's always someone out there inspecting how your food is being produced and checking where it comes from. It also means you're supporting quality assured producers. So always choose food with the Board Bia quality mark. It's food you can enjoy even more because you know you can trust it.
New this week in Home Store and More. All frying pans are all half price. But better hurry, because when all the half price frying pans are gone, they're gone. Also, all garden water features and all bathroom towels are still all half price. But when all the half price garden water features and all the half price bathroom towels are gone, they're definitely gone. Drop by your local Home Store and More. Visit us online at homestoreandmore.ie. New store now open in Frascati Centre, Blackrock. Home Store and More. A happy home.
Step into style with Green Shoes. Stocking the latest styles from all your favourite brands in footwear. From Doc Martens, New Balance and Echo to Riker, Birkenstock and Bugatti. Shop in store in Green Shoes Market Square, Letterkenny Shopping Centre and Fulcara. Or shop from the comfort of home on greenshoes.com and have the latest styles delivered right to your doorstep. Shop LK and one for all gift cards accepted in store. Green Shoes, perfect fit for every foot.
Transform your home with a visit to McGinley's Furniture, Letterkenny, located at the Portlink Business Park just off the Port Road. You'll find a huge selection of top quality suites, beds and mattresses, also slide robes and custom-made dining and occasional furniture, with prices to suit every budget. See the great choice for yourself at our showroom, McGinley's Furniture, Portlink Business Park, Port Road, Letterkenny. Click mcginleysfurniture.com.
This week's show is brought to you by the Highland Hooligan Saloon. Join us this September in the sunny Saloon for a week of live entertainment with Ireland's leading country artists, dinner each evening and plenty of crack. Sun, Saloon and you this September. For booking information, go to the outlet on highlandradio.com.
Donegal County Council is inviting applications for funding under the Regional Festivals and Participative Events Programme 2024. The closing date is the 23rd of February. Programme guidelines and application form can be accessed on the Donegal County Council website and social media or by phoning 074 91 539 00.
With everything from pedal and electric ride-ons to go-karts and scooters, there's loads of fun guaranteed all year round at Tinny's Toys in Letterkenny. If you have a kid's birthday coming up, see the great choice at Tinny's Toys to make it extra special. Visit Tinny's Toys on Leck Road, Letterkenny, or shop online for express delivery at tinnystoys.com. Tinny's Toys, with so much more than just farm toys.
Your local council works for you in lots of ways. It helps support jobs and businesses, provides housing, and manages services such as libraries, roads, parks, plus much, much more. Life in your local area is shaped by the decisions and policies made by your council and the councillors you elect to represent your community. To find out more about how your local council works for you, please visit gov.ie/your council. Brought to you by the Government of Ireland.
Highland Radio weather updates brought to you by Grant. Building a new home? Choose Grant's A++ rated Airona air-to-water heat pump and Uflex underfloor heating. Visit grant.ie.
Well, here at the mountaintop, the rain has turned to sleet and the sleet is turning to snow around the region, though. Cold, wet and blustery today with outbreaks of that rain, sleet and snow spreading from the south this morning. Some accumulations of that snow are likely, especially over the higher grounds, temperatures of 2 to 4 degrees. Now, we're joined on the programme by Emma Bradley, who's a national school principal, but on this occasion is speaking to us as a parent of a child with special needs. Emma, thank you very much for joining us. I do appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Now, there's been quite the reaction to the announcement of the Department of Education. It's released their support teacher allocations for every primary school this week, and there seems to be some disquiet amongst, if that's the right word, amongst parents, and I'm sure teachers and principals as well. Can you sort of explain to us what has been announced and the potential impact of it?
Yes, so every year or every second year that the department releases the SET allocations for schools. So that gives schools knowledge of what teacher supports they will have for children with that need special educational teacher support throughout the next year or 2 years, whatever the case may be. And until this year, this is the first year now where it's allocated without special consideration given to children with complex or additional needs. This year it's allocated based on 4 criteria: enrolment, educational profile for literacy, educational profile for numeracy, and educational disadvantage. Prior to this, the allocations would have had another criteria, another box, let's say, for children with complex disabilities. I myself have a daughter with, she has quite complex needs. She has Down syndrome, a visual impairment, and scoliosis. So along with, let's say, her low literacy profile and numeracy profile due to her intellectual disability with Down syndrome, she also has other complexities that were very time consuming for her teachers who are looking after her so well. It's not a simple case of her just being low academic achieving in English and numeracy. She's actually, there's so many more complexities to her. With her visual impairment, she works from specialised books, sanctioned from the visiting teacher for the visually impaired. They're double-sized print, but there's complexities with working those. Things don't line up maybe the way they do, and the teacher has to find the pay. It's just an added extra for the teachers that take time.
Okay,
teacher time.
So last year the system obviously wasn't perfect, but this year it seems that, and just in your case and it's other cases as well, that your daughter's complexities are actually being ignored as if they no longer matter or count.
Yes, that's the way it feels. She is a more complex case than other children. And yes, there was criteria. If you go back years and years and years ago, when it wasn't perfect, but when you had to enrol your child at school, like I did with her, you would have, or previous children, you would have ticked a box to say, if the child had a visual impairment, a hearing impairment, a physical disability, intellectual disability, autism, whatever it was. And within the allocation then to schools, depending on the number of children a school had with complex needs, there was an increase given to the overall SET allocation. That has been removed this year. So that's not factored into these numbers. And although my daughter will achieve not maybe as high as her peers or the average within the class in literacy and numeracy, that's only a small part of her complex needs. As I say, the scoliosis, the visual impairment add to the academic deficits, let's say.
The demands on the SAT, obviously. So, is it easy at this point to see the difference in your daughter's case, or maybe not enough time has passed, but the hours or the assistance that was available last year versus this year? Like, has that been reduced? Despite the best will of the teachers or whomever's involved, but has this actually led to less support in your daughter's school?
Well, these hours will only come into effect in September 24.
Right, understood.
So this is for next year's teaching allocation. So what she currently has, she has at the minute. My daughter is very lucky. She goes to a school that looks after her extremely well. She loves school, and her classroom teachers and her special education teachers have been fantastic with her right through. They probably, because as a school, and I know in my job that you are directed by the department to allocate the most resources to the most needy children. She is one of the most needy children in her school. She's up there among the top 5, let's say anyway. But what happens is, and this is where it's not just an issue for a parent like me who has a child with extremely complex issues. This is for every parent and every child.
I got you now.
The more time, the less of an allocation to children with complex needs that is given, the more teacher and SET support time must be given to those children, which means your children who are on the fringes, who are on the edges, who could do with a little bit of support if there was time there, those children are losing out as well. Now, it really pains me to say that, because I feel that my daughter has only added value to her school. As any child that I've ever taught with special needs, they add a value to their class and their school, and my daughter is 100% welcomed as a very valued member in her school and in her classroom. But if the proper resources are not there, and if the department do not step up and give these children an opportunity, it does have an impact on others within the school as well. And I mean, the teachers in her school work extremely hard. The children in her class and in the school are extremely, welcoming of her, and they help her and support her. And I honestly think if those that come up with these algorithms for allocating resources spent a day in the life of my daughter and watched how the children in her school value her and care for her and see the importance of her being looked about and learning. And if they could spend the day with her class teacher, her SET, and her, people that work with her SNA, they would understand the value of these resources. It's just, it's really sad, and it will be the children, like my other children, the children on the fringes will lose out.
Well, that's what I was going to say, Emma, just to speak more generally, like, it's not a nice position to put parents and guardians in, generally speaking, that a parent of a child with additional needs is full of praise for the schooling they receive, but then, sort of in the back of the mind or in the front of the mind, concerned what impact that might have on other children. We shouldn't really be put into that emotional space, I don't think, really. And hopefully there's enough time for this to be reconsidered, because there's enough going on without sort of this. No, I mean, and that is the problem. And sometimes it can cause then that, like, it won't happen in my child's school case. I know that. Yeah.
But I can see that down the line, schools may not be as welcoming or as encouraging for children with very complex needs into their school if there is no dedicated supports for that child, because it is then, causing difficulties.
I guess you sort of like they might find themselves being forced into a terrible way of putting it, but like a greater good situation. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, and they wouldn't think of it like that, but
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. It's okay. Right. So this is a decision that was made by the Department of Education. So we're going to make an inquiry into their regard. Can you see any logic to this decision, Emma, given the fact that you have a couple of hats there to wear?
Yes. A long time ago, not that long ago, but it feels like a long time ago, when you enrolled a child with additional needs, like my daughter, into school, there was a box. Now, it was a form, a box-ticking form, which wasn't ideal either, but you ticked to say if your child had a visual impairment or autism or whatever it was. So that was considered a complex need. That was done away with quite a few years ago, and schools and parents were told that all of the schools are going to be front-loaded with enough SNA and SET support to deal with whatever children come into your school. Now, that data is not there anymore, and the 8 years have passed, so that now the department can say that they have no data for children, how many children are in each school with complex needs. And I would envisage that that's why that has been removed. So we're supposed to be front-loaded with enough staff, but I would guarantee you that you would be hard-pressed to find any school in this country that will tell you they have enough support to deal with the complex needs of the children.
Right, a lot there for us to pursue in terms of our inquiries. Emma, thank you very much for your time. I really do appreciate it. Okay, take care.
Thank you.
Emma Bradley there, who's a national school principal, but also talking on that issue primarily, actually, as a parent of a child with special needs. And you can see what that decision throws up. If you're affected by that or have a view on that, please let us know on the usual contacts, 086 60 25,000. That's the WhatsApp and text. And just to remind you, you can WhatsApp your voice notes as well, if that's how you wish to express your opinion, or you can give us a call on 07491 25,000. Okay. The snow playing havoc with some roads outside this region. Well, it's in the northwest. The police service of Northern Ireland has confirmed that a Fermanagh road is currently impassable due to excess snow and ice lying in the areas. In a nutshell, anyone thinking about using Belcoo, Blackline, Derrylin Road to Dublin, you're advised to go another direction. That road is closed. So, as I say, the snow hasn't really hit us here yet, but it is certainly in and around the Fermanagh region. So if you're travelling south, just avoid Belcoo, Black Line, Derrylin Road to Dublin. Thanks to Patsy for messaging that in to us. It's greatly appreciated. News headlines just around the corner.
This week's show is brought to you by the Highland Hooligan Saloon. Join us this September in the sunny Saloon for a week of live entertainment with Ireland's leading country artists, dinner each evening and plenty of crack. Sun, Saloon and you this September. For booking information, go to the outlet on highlandradio.com.
The big baby event is back at Lidl from this Thursday 15th. Baby Low Grow With Me high chairs only $59.99. Dream of cozy Disney baby sleeping bags 2 for €25. And on Lidl Plus, our pressure fit baby gate was $22.99, now $17.99. Go on, shop without compromise. Go full Lidl today.
Is fúine atá sé leictreachas a úsáid bhealach níos cliste agus níos clise. Ag Electric Ireland, táimid an seach an tróir a thuirteart. Le faisnéis fleanan a méidir cliste, tálaí EV agus panel chréine in our net zero hub nua. Déan dúsáid níos soléire, turis níos clise, baile níos teolaí agus saol níos giile. Tuilleadh eolais ag electricireland.ie.
Weanling trade on fire. For more in your Irish Farmers Journal, here's Paul Mooney.
With weanling prices climbing, we look at what's driving the trade. We analyse the farmer protests and political concessions across Europe. Cow weights, the latest sticking point in ICBF row. London Investment Fund snaps up 4 Irish solar farms. The latest on the water quality targets your farm will have to meet. Is paying farmers to take slurry cheaper than renting land? And as lambing begins, our focus has all you need to know.
All inside the Irish Farmers Journal, on sale now.
Before you settle on a new hybrid, take the Nissan Qashqai e-Power Challenge. The Nissan Qashqai e-Power is a hybrid, so you don't have to plug in. But unlike other hybrids, it always drives in electric mode. You get the superior, smooth and quiet driving experience of an electric car all of the time. Take the Nissan Qashqai e-Power Challenge at your local Nissan dealer today. You'll never look back. Nissan, innovation that excites.
Oreo the robot is not just helping with service at Kelly's Diner, he's also adding a little twist to birthdays there. If you're celebrating at Kelly's, Oreo can even be persuaded to sing a very special happy birthday. It's a great treat for small kids and plenty of big kids too. For the chance to see and hear Oreo the robot in action, visit Kelly's award-winning diner today at Mountaintop Letterkenny. First Communion and Confirmation catering also now available.
The county's #1 talk show, The 9 till Noon Show on Highland Radio.
Okay, it's just turned 11 o'clock. Let's get a news update now from Michaela Clark.
Thanks, Greg. Good morning. Contact tracing is taking place after a man died after contracting measles in the first case reported in Ireland this year. It's reported the man, aged in his 40s, died in a hospital in the Dublin and Midlands Health region after recently travelling to an event in England. The Chief Medical Officer says she's very concerned the country is at high risk of a measles outbreak as the national vaccination rate has fallen below 90%. In the Donegal, Leitrim, Sligo and West Cavan region, vaccine uptake is at 82%. Gardaí have arrested 3 people in connection with an arson attack at a former Dublin pub on New Year's Eve. 4 homes were searched under warrant this morning in connection with the blaze at the Shipwright pub on December the 31st. It was being renovated to house homeless families. Early Childhood Ireland is calling on all Donegal Oireachtas members to support a new single agency for early years and school age care. The body has today issued all Oireachtas members with its policy proposal outlining the importance of the establishment of such an agency to support the over 8,200 children enrolled in childcare settings in Donegal. The Sinn Féin president has clarified remarks about a united Ireland being within touching distance. It's after DUP leader Jeffrey Donaldson dismissed the claims, saying Mary Lou McDonald must have the longest arms in Ireland. The National Women's Council is hosting a referendum event in Letterkenny tomorrow. It's part of the group's Vote Yes Yes in the referendum on family and care on March the 8th campaign. They will gather at the Donegal Women's Centre tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock. A public meeting is to be held in Milford next week to discuss the redevelopment of the former Reformed Presbyterian Church. The Milford and District Resource Centre received the building from the Reformed Presbyterian congregation in Milford in November of 2022, and grants to date secured have allowed it to partially reopen. 3 Donegal tourism attractions have been recognised at the CIE Tours Award of Excellence, which took place in Dublin this week. The company brought 25,000 tourists to Ireland last year, and based on their customers' feedback forms, they presented awards to the Slieve League Visitor Centre, Glen Bay and Donegal Castle. Those are the latest headlines. We'll be back with an update again at 12 noon.
Thank you very much indeed, Michaela.
Go all Aldi this Valentine's with prices even Cupid will fall for. In store from February 10th. A dozen red roses just $3.99. Scented surprise bouquet $14.99. And an unbeatable price on Prosecco Frizzante was $7.99, now only $6.21. From February 12th, get sizzling savings on Irish Black Angus sirloin steak 2-pack was $8.49, now only $5.99. This Valentine's Day, follow the path to lower prices. Go all Aldi. Get the facts, be drinkaware, visit drinkaware.ie.
OK, some of your comments here. Hi, Greg. Should the government take some responsibility for all of the arson attacks? Well, I mean, arson and the destruction of property is a very serious crime against another person's property and stuff they own, and you can face a life sentence up for it. I mean, where does that argument end? So if I'm frustrated with the government's policies and I believe that they're responsible for the cost of living crisis, do I go across the road and fill my car up with petrol and drive off? Do I break into someone's house and take their stuff if I think they've got more than me and they're being looked after more by the government? I mean, you go down that route, where does it end? You know? I wish the councils had done these buildings up years ago, hundreds of them, and put them to a good use. This burning of buildings would not be happening. Thank you, Mary. I think the number fell for Sinn Féin and others because people are thinking maybe more in independent farmers' parties, etc. Every action has a reaction. There's no doubt about that. Good morning, Greg. We've snow here in Stranraer. That comes in from a daily listener. Thank you so much indeed. Hopefully, Stranraer is always an area where things start to settle perhaps before other areas in the county. County councillors have no real say in anything, believes this listener. The council executive calls the shots beyond filling potholes and deciding property tax rate. A caller believes it's a waste of taxpayers' money, but even the executive of the council doesn't necessarily have the power in relation to the new planning situation. Hi, Greg. How are Aintu doing in the polls? Great alternative to other parties. If Maria Walsh refers to pale meaning white skin, then that is racist, she believes, or this person believes. Aintu are... have been announcing candidates from really quite diverse backgrounds as well. So a lot of people will go, well, we'll see that as a positive, and the world we live in now, some might even see that as a negative. 086 60 25,000 is the WhatsApp and text number, or give us a call on 074 91 25,000. Right, Alana Kerrigan joins us on the show now. Good morning, Alana.
Good morning, Greg.
Nice to speak to you. Now, you have been publishing on your Instagram about your recent experience of a home birth. You opted for a home birth, and more specifically a water birth. Is that correct? And if so, well, it is correct because I know I've read it. Why did you, Alana?
Well, this is my third baby, Greg, and with the first two, I was induced. I went into hospital and had an induced labour in the labour ward. And I thought that was what I had to do because I'm someone who is prone to developing gestational diabetes. And I always wanted a water birth, but because of the diabetes and because of being induced, it was not an option that was available to me in the hospital. So when I got pregnant for the third time, I was researching how could I have a water birth. I really wanted to do it, and I was just told that it wasn't an option for me. So the only way I could do that was by looking into home birth. And at first I thought, that sounds a bit risky, but I did a lot of research, and actually it's far safer in a lot of cases to have your baby at home. And also you're then in control of the environment, and you can choose if you want to have a water birth or whatever other kind of birth, whatever preferences you want to put in place. I had probably not a great experience with my first birth in the hospital, and that left a wee bit of birth trauma as well. So I felt much more confident then, giving birth at home and being, as I say, in control of the environment and feeling like that wee bit more autonomy over the circumstances.
And did you go full term with your third child, or because of the diabetes in pregnancy, was the baby induced?
So no, you can't actually be induced at home currently, in my trust area anyway. So I went overdue, which was a new experience for me. With the other two, I was induced at 39 weeks. And this time around, I had a home birth rota, which started at 37 weeks. So what that means is from 37 weeks, there were midwives on call to come to my home anytime. And that went up to 41 weeks. But unfortunately, I went overdue beyond that. I went to 41 weeks and 2 days. So I had to request that rota be extended. And let me tell you, the 9 days that I went overdue felt as long as the 9 months that I was pregnant. I have a whole new appreciation. It was really stressful, because I think I knew that the hospital and the consultant would start to put pressure on me as well. If I went too far overdue, they'd start to pressure me.
Well, that was it.
Coming in and having an induction.
Because obviously if I'm correct with the diabetes and pregnancy, as soon as you have the baby, that your blood levels return to normal. Is that the case with you?
Yeah, they do.
So
the gestational diabetes,
Yeah, so did they advise you that, really by going full term, and in your case 9 days over, that sort of potentially increased any risk with you with the diabetes or even to your unborn baby?
The risk to myself is the same. With gestational diabetes, it's all linked to the placenta. So once you deliver the placenta, the impact of the hormones on your insulin resistance are basically gone right away. The risks that they are worried about are obviously risks to the baby. I was very lucky in that every time with my gestational diabetes, it was diet controlled. I never had to go on any medication. I was able to manage my blood sugar levels just by watching what I was eating. And the research that I had done indicated to me that if your diabetes in pregnancy is well managed, then the risks to the baby that normally are present, they're actually mitigated already just by managing it. You're really at no higher risk than anyone else, as long as your levels have been well managed, which mine thankfully were. So the main risks with a gestational diabetes baby is that you can have a larger baby than normal. They call it macrosomic, I think, and it's basically a baby that's difficult to deliver because of their size. There's also a risk of shoulder dystocia, where the baby gets stuck because their shoulders are too wide. And there's also a risk of the baby being born with low blood sugar. Now, because I'd had 2 previous births and both babies were fine, I was very confident that those risks were really minimal.
I can imagine. Now, when you talk of a water birth, like, is there a specific, pool, or is it like you bring in, a jacuzzi or something with the power off, or like, is there a particular what are you in as you give birth?
Well, we bought a birth pool, a specific birth pool online. Really, there's no rules. You could give birth in your bathtub if you wanted, but it probably wouldn't be the most comfortable place. We chose to buy a birth pool. You do have to be careful. Some people think you can just get any old paddling pool, but the plastics need to be safe for warm water, and it needs to be sturdy enough that you can lean on it and so on. So there are specific brands that sell birth pools, and we bought ours online. And then it comes with all these disposable elements. So it comes with a pool liner and a hose and a pump and everything that gets disposed of afterwards. So if we were to reuse the pool, we'd have to rebuy certain parts of it.
Yeah, okay, fascinating. And it's just you in the pool as you give birth. Obviously then there's a new arrival, but those that are assisting you are around the pool.
They were, yes, although the pool we bought was large enough that I told my husband if he wanted to get in, he could get in.
I could guess the answer to that one.
He wasn't. So I told him, if I decide you're getting in the pool, you're getting in the pool. But thankfully we didn't have time to discuss that because the baby came very quickly and I barely got in the pool myself.
Yeah. And you didn't take what would be described as traditional pain medication during the birth. How did you approach that side of things? Because you'd been there twice before, so you knew for the most part what to expect.
Yeah, so I did hypnobirthing classes with my first and second baby. And hypnobirthing as a concept is unbelievable. Women can practice that whether they're giving birth at home, in the hospital, in a birthing suite, wherever. And what that does is really helps prepare your mind for the experience of labour. So I went into it knowing that, it wasn't going to be totally comfortable, but it was something that my body is designed to do. I had practiced breathing techniques. I used aromatherapy. The pool itself provides some level of pain relief. But mostly it's a case of mind over matter, I think, and telling yourself that your body is designed to do this. And it's not like if you break your arm, the pain is there to tell you that something's wrong. When you're birthing a child, it's your body doing a natural physiological process. And I think a lot of the pain that we feel comes from our expectation of it being a painful event. And if you think, Greg, about when you see childbirth on TV, it's always this really medicalised setting where a woman's on a bed, maybe she's in stirrups and she's screaming, and that in itself, and the fact that in society we only ever really hear horror stories about when birth goes wrong or how painful it is, or people almost revel in telling their horror stories about birth. So that, I think, adds to the experience for a lot of women. They go in expecting childbirth to be painful, and therefore it is. I knew it wasn't going to be a breeze, don't get me wrong, and I said that when I told my birth story on Instagram. I said it doesn't tickle, it is very intense, but you can do it. And I also there was gas and air at the house, so that was delivered around Christmas time, and it was here to be used, but unfortunately the midwives only made it to my birth about 8 minutes before the baby was born. So by that stage I had asked if I could have the gas and air, and they couldn't get it set up quick enough because he was already on his way. So
right, okay.
And there are options.
Are you under the NHS or the HSE? Sorry.
So I'm under the NHS. Okay. I'm in County Derry. So
understood, Alana.
We are the Western Trust.
Yeah.
But I do think there's a lot of similarities in terms of the process, because I was actually reading into that, whether you're in the north or the south. I think the main thing, I didn't realise that home birth was an option, or that I could be supported by NHS midwives.
But the thing about it is not an option everywhere, because we knew we were going to have this conversation and that people listening might go, right, you know what, that sounds like something I would go through. So we contacted the HSE and said, we're wondering if home births are available to families in Donegal at the moment, and their answer is a single line. Public Health Nursing Service Donegal does not provide a home birth service, be it in or out of the water for that matter, which is I think really quite interesting, Alana, that you can avail of it in Derry, but your neighbour across the road in Donegal couldn't. Well, how do you?
There is. I do think that you can, and obviously this is developed. It depends on personal circumstances, but I believe there are private midwives available in the south, which you can't actually hire in the north because they can't get insured to work in the north. So there are options available, but I believe if you can't get it through the HSE, that's not very good, and people should be annoyed about that, because it was, of all three of my births, it was the best experience that I've ever had, and my recovery so far has been wonderful. And I will be shouting this from the rooftops for the foreseeable, that I think anyone, as long as you don't have any immediate danger to yourself or your baby, and there's no medical need for you to be in a hospital, I think everyone should consider a home birth and should be allowed the opportunity to consider a home birth.
I think so, Alana, and correct me if I'm wrong too. I think it kind of depends on the personality, because, when you go in for scans or what have you, and the measurements are there, and it's a little bit smaller, or it's a little bit big, or a lot of people get on edge with that, right? Because they're not familiar with the language or the bedside manner, and instantly go into, oh my God, is there something wrong mode? So like the diabetes and pregnancy thing that you had, for a lot of people it'd be like, oh my God, is everything going to go okay? But because you had experience of it, and you're pretty chilled about it, able to handle it with your diet, and I think maybe that kind of feeds into your wider character. Correct me at any point that I'm wrong. And I think, a lot of these decisions come down to, how confident the individual is in sort of going and understanding and working through that language and realising that they can still do a home birth, if any of that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense. And I think that's partly why the first time I was pregnant and going through this, I didn't question what I was told by my healthcare providers when the consultant said my baby was measuring really big and I would struggle to deliver my baby. I was like, oh my goodness, book me in for that induction. I never questioned what negative side effects there could be of the induction, because you just trust wholeheartedly
and
that
as you
your
say,
care providers
they often tell you that the baby might be big, and then they might tell you that later in their life they may be more susceptible to obesity, and you're hearing all these alarm bells going. All your alarm bells start to go dependent on your character, and then you go, right, I'm going to err completely on the side of caution. When we had our last baby, Alana, shortly after birth, it was he was induced as well because of the I keep calling it pregnancy and diabetes because I ain't taking on the G word. And shortly after birth, effectively stopped breathing. And thank God for the amazing people down the road from us here. Got him into the ICU, and it was touch and go for a bit, and then miraculously, and it was a miracle, I feel, he just came out of it and was fine, started breathing on his own. Like, did you have any concerns that, God forbid, something happened post-birth? Are you assured that the midwives on hand sort of have the emergency stuff that might be required in such an incident?
Yeah, they bring and leave everything that they might need in an emergency at your home. So they used the word resuscitation quite a few times, and in your case that was obviously needed. But with my case, when I was pregnant, I found that quite anxiety inducing, but I knew that they had to go through all the risk factors, and they had to make sure that I was making an informed decision. And so it was quite scary at times to think about that. But when you have to take a step back sometimes and look at the bigger picture and the statistics, and everything that I'd already experienced was telling me that me and my baby were going to be fine. And worst case scenario, we are about 12 minutes from the nearest hospital in an ambulance if there was any need to transfer either myself or my baby in. Listen, and that does provide some reassurance.
And I respect that, because I feel sometimes, generally speaking, sometimes I'm actually controlled by fear and catastrophizing and stuff like that there, and it's not really a very nice way to live your life. So I'm full of admiration that you're able to process that and work through it and do what worked out really well for you and your lovely family, Alana. And it's been really nice speaking to you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Greg.
Take care. Bye-bye. That's Alana Kerrigan there. Roma, sorry for holding you there. Roma, good morning.
Hello, Greg. How are you?
I'm all right. I'm just reading. I'm just reading the introduction to you. What a mum. Okay, talk to me about your super mum.
Well, my mother, unfortunately, Greg, can't talk today because she has been diagnosed with dementia now, going on 70. So, she and Daddy met when they were.
Oh, Roma, come here. Let me take a break and get you back on a good line. Will you hang up there, Roma? I want to call you back. Sorry, just give me 5 minutes. We'll get you back in a minute, but I'll take 5 minutes of your time. All right, stay where you are. Caroline's going to reconnect with Roma there because her mother is Let me just say, very experienced in home births.
The county's #1 talk show, The 9 till Noon Show on Highland Radio.
This week's show is brought to you by the Highland Hooligan Saloon. Join us this September in the sunny Saloon for a week of live entertainment with Ireland's leading country artists, dinner each evening and plenty of crack. Sun, Saloon and you this September. For booking information, go to the outlet on highlandradio.com.
Despite low temperatures and high energy costs, it's important everyone stays warm and well through the colder months. It's also important to understand that saving energy where possible saves money and helps reduce the impact on our climate. Simple steps can make a big difference, like turning down the thermostat by 1 degree, limiting the use of high energy appliances like tumble dryers, or ensuring we don't heat rooms that aren't in use. Government is playing its part too, making a range of supports available to help ease the burden on families across the country. For support and advice, visit gov.ie/reduce your use. Brought to you by the Government of Ireland.
The way you eat a cream egg says everything about you. If you eat yours with a teaspoon, that means you like things just so. You turn up the TV in even numbers. You pronounce chorizo, chorizo. And if you find a shirt you like, you buy 10. Search Cream Egg Test to find out who you really are. Cadbury Cream Egg. How do you eat yours?
Nutrius XL Yo with Lamb and Nutrius Yo with Lamb Crunch are formulated to ensure a vigorous lamb and excellent milk yield. Avail of our lambing season offer. 25 kg bags, buy 10, get 1 free. And €15 off per tonne in bulk. Available at your local Homeland store. Visit nutrius.ie for full nutritional information.
Do you suffer from high cholesterol, menopause symptoms, digestive issues, anxiety, aches and pains, or a lack of energy? The highly trained team at The Natural Way Letterkenny can provide advice on natural remedies for a number of individual health issues. The Natural Way also has its own brand of herbal treatments to help fight fatigue, relieve digestive discomfort, maintain a healthy immune system, and alleviate common menopause symptoms. The Natural Way at Letterkenny Shopping Centre, your one-stop health shop.
Roma, sorry about that. How are you now?
You're all right, good. I'm grand now.
All right,
Fine.
tell us about your mum then.
So my mother obviously can't do the talking today because she's dementia, Greg. But her and my daddy met when Mommy was 15 and Daddy was 17.
Mm-hmm.
They got married when she was 17, and she had a baby every year since that, until obviously her last child, Leonie. She had all home births, 15 home births, and my sister Orla was a bit difficult, so they had to take her into hospital to be delivered because she had her cord around her neck. That was the only thing that sent Mommy to the hospital.
Wow.
All births were obviously, the doctor was there and Nurse Feeney, I think it was at the time,
Mm-hmm.
and it would have been Dr. Flaherty or Dr. Magner at the time were all my mother's. You know, they were present at all Mommy's 15 births in the house.
So how many
Daddy was busy being.
How many children did your mum have?
My mommy had 19 children, all single births.
Wow. That's remarkable. That's literally a football team and subs.
But you know what, Greg? She loved it. She loved being a mommy, and to this day, it's the children that brighten her up. So there was something special about her, just.
For sure. Wow. I mean, literally gave her life to having and rearing children. That was what worked for her, what she wanted.
Yeah, 100% dedicated. Her and my father both, like, obviously. He was obviously part of the, he was part of the good plan too. So he was always about the house when she was having her babies. You know, he would have been busy. There's one story about him wallpapering while she was in giving birth. My granny was there and the doctor, and they delivered one of my sisters at the time while he was out papering a wall. So,
well, you see, I suppose once it's happened so often, you kind of have to get on with things. You know, there's a new baby. And are all your birthdays grouped, or are they across the year, or?
We're all across the year. I mean, it's all stepping stones, so we're all just over a year apart.
Wow.
It was then my last sister, there was 2 years between them, obviously. There was a couple of miscarriages in there too, unfortunately, but you know what? She believed that was before you wouldn't pass and she had her 19 children, and she was just happy, like I say, being at home and being with us all the time. And she really highly recommended the home birth, to be honest.
And did she have it in a bed, like it would have been that way rather than? Yeah.
She had all her babies in a private room, obviously, with the doctor and the nurse. and maybe my granny would have been present at the time.
Yeah.
You know, so... Oh, she never complained. I never once heard her complain about anything, to be honest with you.
What an amazing woman. And where in the siblings do you sit, Roma?
I'm number 17, Craig, so I am. There's 2 more after me.
And...
But like I say...
when was the most people in the house, if you know what I mean? Like, you know, people move on and move out and stuff.
Yeah. So my oldest sister was married and had a set of twins before I was born.
Mm-hmm.
And then everybody else was in the house. So I'd say 17 at any one time were in the house together. Was my oldest sister then getting married when my second oldest sister got married when I was 4, I think. So yeah, there would have been 17 in the house at any one time. Amazing story. What a way to grow up. What an experience to be reared amongst so many of your siblings. Yeah, and you know what, Greg? It's like anything. It's the experience that makes you the person, I think, because without that experience, sure, we'd be completely different. You know what I mean? I just think we're the type of people that just enjoy having the crack, you know, when we get together. And obviously, it's like any family. You have your ups and downs, but you get through it.
And the North,
you know what I mean, and it makes you stronger as a family.
And the North and South Koreas, it's like
yeah. It's all just part of it.
Okay, it's the same.
Daddy would be the best, I think, talking to you, Greg.
I'm from a large family, and my partner's family is. I thought like 13, 14 was big, but 19 is just something else. And busy house all of the time. It would have been hard to get time to yourself, which is not a bad thing either, Roma, don't get me wrong. But did you sort of go, oh my word, can I have 2 minutes to myself, please?
Do you know what I find now, though? I think we're all a bit the same. I can't really stick as much noise as I used to, so maybe that's a sign of, you know, how busy things were. So I know I like a bit of quiet time sometimes, but other than that, no, it was great, Greg. To be honest, I had great experience growing up. Great parents. You know, we were never. Daddy worked hard. Mommy was great manager of money. She just. I don't know how they did it, but they did it, and they did it easy, if you know what I mean. Compared to the way we all complain nowadays.
Yeah.
I mean, we all complain about silly things these days, but she didn't. She just got through it. I can remember standing up till 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, like as I got older, using the twin tub at that time.
Yeah.
And washing, you know, clothes, and obviously you get to an age where you helped her, and we took over the housework then from her, but unfortunately she was young enough when she got sick. But she has been interviewed here before with you. Right. I think it was with Sean.
Okay.
And then she was on the paper. You know, she got an award for Ulster for Super Mum of the Year, like way back. So.
And
obviously,
exactly. Well, that's good, isn't it? It's good that her voice has been heard.
Yeah.
Pot cooking as well too. Can you imagine preparing meals and what have you? I mean, everything. Obviously, you know, you couldn't. Sometimes in our house, like you find yourself making 2 or 3 different things. That was not the way it was when we were growing up. We all ate out of a pot, and everyone had the same thing. And if you didn't eat it, well, you learned you had to eat it because there was no special provisions because you simply couldn't because there's so many people.
No, he just had that way with food. Even anybody came into my house got fed. People can tell you stories about he never left our home, no matter how many was in it, without a full stomach. Like she just had this way of just making everybody feel at home.
Yeah. What an
I came across someone recently in 87.
Go ahead.
I came across an 87-year-old woman recently just by chance, and she said, "Roma, I think we've met before." And I was like, "I don't know." And she says, "I came to your house years ago with some priest, to get shirts from your daddy." And she said, "And your mother made me a whole feed, and I left your house full to the brim." So that was nice too, Craig.
Lovely.
You know, just to see the amount of people she's impacted.
Yeah, and it's lovely, Roma, and it's so clear that you're able to speak of not just your mum but your dad as well with such warmth and respect. It's lovely, and it was the same with my parents, thankfully. Roma, it's wonderful. What an amazing woman. What a legacy to leave behind. 19 children. And then of course the grandchildren, all that kind of stuff as well. It's wonderful. Pass on our best wishes to your mum as well.
I will, Greg.
And we really appreciate you. And what a lovely tribute to her. And it's great that her story's been told in the past as well.
Do you know what? Childbirth, just to Mummy was she used to take it in her stride, like I said, and she believed she used to always say to us when we were having our babies, the apple will fall when it's ready. So, she was very much. She would have had home births the whole way through. Unfortunately, my sister Orla led her to hospital, but you know what? Other than that, all was good. She had good experiences, and I suppose that's the main thing.
Amazing. Love to all, Roma. Thank you so much for your time. Take care
all
of
right,
yourself.
thank you, Greg.
Bye-bye.
Thank
Take
you.
care. That's Roma Redden there. Her mother, and I can't imagine this is matched anywhere, really. 15 children born at home and 4 in hospital, and she won the title and retains the title of Super Mum. And lovely to hear, Roma. And what an amazing mum. And dad as well, too. Let's not forget dads, too. Dad was there on one occasion wallpapering. I love that side of the story. But I suppose you get, once you've been doing it for so long, you sort of become accustomed to it. In regards to the home birth, Private Midwives Ireland isn't available in Donegal, so it's not possible at all to have a home birth in the county with either private midwives or HSE midwives. Obviously, that's someone who's looked into that. I wonder why Private Midwives Ireland don't offer that service in Donegal. Is there a reason to that? A lot of snow on McGrory's Bray. Not sure what it's like further on going to Donegal. So McGrory's Bray is between Ballybofey and Donegal town. And it's where that roadworks is ongoing at the moment. So a listener who's been on the road telling us McGrory's Bray, a lot of snow there. I think now we're moving into the time, looking out the window, where we're going to start to see snow lying. So if you are out and about or on the roads, obviously be really careful. But if there's any information that it's useful for us to pass on to other motorists or road users, please let us know. Hopefully school runs in the afternoon and what have you unaffected. But if there's any road information that you can share with us and we can share with our listeners, please let us know right across the region, by the way. Greg, to the person who said who should take the blame for the government, or should the government take blame for arson attacks, such a ridiculous statement. The only ones who are responsible for arson attacks are the person who deliberately starts the fire. That if someone or some people were inside the burning building, who's responsible then? But sometimes you wonder if people... You just see some commentary from people, and maybe it's just words that, this is a fight, or, it's part of a bigger picture, almost as if someone could be collateral damage. How could you be fully sure there isn't a person, even a homeless person, seeking shelter in one of these premises? Do you know what I mean? I think people really need to, we can have the debates, have the discussions, have the arguments, but it just feels we need something of a reset in this country, and it's the same all over the place. That's a great story. 15 Waynes born at home. Imagine, please have more stories like this on. Yeah, we love the stories. And we also, too, put a call out, and just actually to remind you, last year we were looking for your unsung heroes, and we got loads of correspondence in on that, and we're going to start introducing some of those people over the course of this year as well. So look out and listen out for unsung heroes. Could we say, potentially, that Supermum Ms. Redden is our first unsung hero? I think she's a hero. I fought for a free bus pass. I also have epilepsy. When I threatened to sue them, I got my bus pass. Emma spoke with so much understanding and empathy and so eloquently. I want to say a big well done to her. Yeah, I just was talking to Emma about the SET hours in schools. It painted the scenario perfectly for me. Listen to the segment on seizures. So happy to hear this being spoken about on today's show. As someone who lives with someone who suffers from seizures, it's a topic I feel is not spoken enough about. People try and hide it, and then there should be no shame about it, but awareness indeed. And again, I can't emphasize this enough, how important this statement I'm about to make is that if there are things like that you believe you should hear more of, or, that people don't understand. I'll give you an example. We were talking about Lyme's disease, and then we had a gentleman listening to us that suffered from Addison's disease, and he messaged me on Facebook and says, look, Greg, I would love an opportunity to talk about Addison's disease. Not a lot of people understand it, and there's only 2 of us in the county and a few of us in the country. Brilliant. So he came on and talked about it as well. So that's how interactive we are. So when I invite you to text or contact us, or if there's something you want to talk about or something you want us to talk about, it's not just a throwaway line at the start of the show. I mean it. And I'm delighted that this person felt that topic was being discussed and it's helpful to them. And if you're out there and there's something that you want to talk about, please really feel free to contact us. We are your station, and it's not just a tagline. That's exactly what we do here. Very disturbing, the amount of buildings and premises that are being vandalised in our country right now. When and if some of the people who drive this hate agenda run for election, I hope the people give them a message. Back to seizures. Would the seizure possibly be related to stress? Could she relax her nervous system? It might be worth a try. Yep, she says that the triggers are tiredness, overtiredness and stress. But I mean, if you're a mum and you're working and just going about general life does bring stress with it. So you can't avoid stress, really. You can try and manage it, and I think Laura does very well in relation to that, but you can't eliminate it either. But this caller says a small dose of Oxyclam might reduce her anxiety and stress. It would be easier than an operation. She should consult her doctor. I worked in a hospital and noticed that anyone with anxiety was at a higher risk of seizure as the body is in high function. Indeed. Yeah, that does make sense. And I'm sure all medical options have been looked at there. I mean, with that, there comes... You know, you're going down another course of action. I'm not sure how that medicine might work with the anti-seizure measure and so on and so forth, but I really appreciate you getting in touch. I was born with epilepsy. It's over 10 years from the last one. No doctor can tell me when anyone will have one. So you had a seizure 10 years ago. Are you on medication? Maybe that talks to the fact that your body works well with the medication that you have. Right, let's take a break. Our next guest about to join us.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook and at highlandradio.com.
This week's show is brought to you by the Highland Hooligan Saloon. Join us this September in the sunny Saloon for a week of live entertainment with Ireland's leading country artists, dinner each evening and plenty of crack. Sun, Saloon and you this September. For booking information, go to the outlet on highlandradio.com.
Spread the love this week at your local Centra with great offers. Like Inspired by Centra Angus sirloin steak for 40 gram, only €8. Inspired by Centra selected breakfast deal, any 3 for €6. And Champagne Pierre Darcy's Brut 75cl, only €20. Shop smart, feel good. Centra. Live every day. Enjoy alcohol sensibly.
Valentine's Day is almost here. Still looking for the perfect treat for your special someone? Make this day unforgettable with a gift from Pandora. Don't wait until the last minute. Visit us now in store and online at pandora.net to find the perfect symbol of love.
Don't miss out on Ireland's #1 home energy deal. Switch to SSE Airtricity today and you'll be switching to the best energy offer in the market with up to 20% off select plans. Choose our Smart Everyday plan and you'll enjoy even greater benefits, like an hourly overview of your energy consumption, a simple flat 24-hour rate, and an end to estimated electricity bills. Switching couldn't be easier. Simply go to ssseairtricity.com. SSE Airtricity. This is Generation Green. EAB €1,484.82. Rates valid from the 1st of February 2024. For details of T's and C's, rates, exit fees, standing charges and renewable energy, see ssseairtricity.com.
Are you ready to elevate your driving experience? Look no further than iMotors, your only Nissan dealership in the Northwest. The Nissan X-Trail has been crowned Large SUV of the Year. That's right, it's not just an SUV, it's an award-winning experience on wheels. Available in 4-wheel drive and a 7-seater. Visit us today at imotors.ie to find out more.
Right, you're very welcome back to the programme. And we're joined on it now by Mary Herlihy, who's manager of the Donegal Women's Centre. And we're talking about an event that's coming up ahead of the referendums on family and care on the 8th of March. Now, this is a point of view coming from one particular standpoint, but we're keeping a close eye on this topic, of course. And whilst it's not always easy to deliver balance in every single interview in the round, we are keeping a close eye on that to ensure that balance is given to both sides of the arguments as best as possible. But as I say, we want to be able to have conversations as well without it always being... Anyway, it'll be fine in the long run. Mary Herlihy, manager of the Donegal Women's Centre. So the event is taking place this Friday at 11 a.m. And what's the purpose of this meeting?
Yes, thank you, Greg, and thanks for having me on this morning. The purpose is really, it's an information session. So it's an opportunity for the public, because it's an open invitation to come along and hear information that is that is balanced, that will inform people on how and what the referendum means, what the changes are, what it means for them if they've got any concerns. So we have a panel of speakers there that will look at it from each side and every side, and maybe some issues that haven't come up or haven't been spoken about publicly. So it's really just kind of a get together just to share information. So we won't be pressing for obviously the National Women's Council of Ireland are very publicly coming out with a yes campaign. That's not the purpose of tomorrow. The purpose is to give the information and to allow the attendees to make an informed decision on how they would like to vote on the 8th of March.
Yeah, the problem with this referendi, and it's probably not unique to these either, it's not actually the wording of what we're voting on or what we're voting on, it's the unknown. It's the subsequent application, interpretation, challenges to it. So to some extent, yes, we can have informed debates, but to a great extent we can't, because you really could approach this, referenda and sort of talk about what might happen after the fact to suit your point of view or your narrative or your state of mind, and which is somewhat unfortunate, or maybe that's just the reality of life.
That's probably the reality of it. And I think there's been so little discussion around this referendum on both of them that I think there's a lot of misinformation, there's an awful lot of confusion. And this started with a conversation with ourselves here in the centre, from me talking to friends about what they knew, how they thought they were going to vote. And we all realised actually we have very little information. So we have very little information around the referendum itself, what the impact or the consequence of voting yes or no will look like going forward. I know that the wording isn't really is going to be an issue for some people, and what would that mean? And I think the likes of the conversation starting tomorrow will just bring those out into the open, get people talking about it.
Yeah, because even just on one issue, which feeds into conversations we have on a regular basis in various, is this, removing or diluting a woman's place in the Constitution? Now, there are two arguments to that can be very forcibly made, and both kind of right. And that's just in one tiny icky-bicky element of this, and therein lies the problem. Informed decisions, though, informed opinions, because I think there are those I think there's someone listening here that has an opinion, and they might think no aligns to that opinion, and they might actually think yes aligns to that opinion in both referendums.
Yeah, and that's the reality, and that's, I suppose, being a democracy as well, is that, if you look at this and you don't really like it and it's not for you, or you don't agree with it, you have the right to vote no. Equally, on the other side, if this is something that's going to impact you, you think this is a positive move forward, that this is broadening out, what a family looks like. The woman is still mentioned in the Constitution on other occasions. Mother is still mentioned there, so it's not taking it away. I think what we're looking at is broadening out and to be more inclusive. That, it's the language that's important, because there's a lot of stay-at-home dads here at the moment as well. You've got same-sex marriages. There's, I suppose, society has changed, the family. I
think part of it too is, we are now having a referendum, and this doesn't talk to a yes or no, but who's driving for this? Like, I was a dad, a single parent father. But I didn't think, oh my God, I need to be recognised in the, and people weren't contacting me saying, right, we need to get together now and campaign to the government to change this because we don't think dads are being recognised here. Thruples aren't sort of saying, we need a referendum now because we want ours to be classed as a meaningful relationship. Now, the referendum in itself wouldn't determine that, but some are arguing that that's what it could. So who is campaigning and seeking this sort of change in language and inclusivity and or even the removal of our reference to women, if not the total removal of it? I think that's what kind of has a lot of people sort of saying, well, what's the motivation for this? What is the problem here that we're trying to fix?
Yeah, and that's really good, and that's part of the confusion, because nobody, we're not all clear about where it came from. My own personal understanding is that it came from the Citizens' Assembly. and looking at the role of women in society, and looking at the role that women has changed since the Constitution, was written, and about women's role in society, women's role within the home and outside of the home. And I think following on from that, then it's to broaden out to include other families, to include lone parents, to include mums who are parenting on their own. So it's to be more inclusive of the society that we're currently living in. Without necessarily being detrimental to women or to mothers in the home. And that's what tomorrow is about. Where did it come from? How did this happen? How did we get here? And why are we doing this? And that's the conversations we'll be having tomorrow as well, just looking at all of that.
Yeah, because a lot in this country's against women, representation, work, employment opportunities, healthcare, is anti-women, and it some might say, well, it seems to recognise that to some extent, to remove a reference to women in particular would seem counterintuitive. That's not me saying that's an opinion, but that's part of the debate. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's two sides to that, because we can look at it and say, well, we're not looking at women just being in the home. We're looking at them, their work, their contribution to society outside of the home. And equally, we're looking at their contribution that they give within the home, because many women choose or maybe not choose, but they end up being carers in the home. And it's to give, legitimacy to that as well as a woman being outside and having a career and working and doing other activities outside of the house. So it's trying to be inclusive. Again, that's my understanding of it. I think tomorrow will be great, because there'll be another debate about that. There'll be more information. I'll be challenged. We'll all be challenging each other, coming from different sides. And that was really where it all came from, because people had different opinions. I heard this, I heard that.
And people need to step out of the echo chamber, really. It's so important. Again, I sound like a scratched record, but, it's good to go into a room like this and say half the panel, yeah, you're right, half the panel, you're wrong, but you do said something that, resonates. Okay, so people just roll up to the Donegal Women's Centre tomorrow morning at 11 a.m.
So we're going to have a panel of speakers, Rachel Coyle and Catherine Lee from the National Women's Council of Ireland, and they have obviously come out, and we've no issue with that. They're going for the SES campaign. We have Patricia Blee from the Family Carers Ireland, so she's coming along to give her contribution. And then we have Siobhan Cullen, who is also our chairperson, but is a family law lecturer. And Siobhan is going to chair the debate and really kind of play almost devil's advocate, for everything that's put forward. Maybe say, okay, well, what's the other side of this? How can we look at it differently? Exactly the points that you brought up. Are we, discriminating? Are we eliminating women from the Constitution? So it's to have that balance, that over and back. And then hopefully the purpose is really for women, our people, those who attend tomorrow, to leave more informed and say, actually, I'm quite comfortable and I know how I'm going to vote. Or say, actually, I need more information. And we might do other events then.
All right, Mary, listen, thank you very much for that. It's at 11 o'clock tomorrow in the Donegal Women's Centre. Have a lovely day. Mary Herlihy, manager of the Donegal Women's Centre.
This week's show is brought to you by the Highland Hooligan Saloon. Join us this September in the sunny Saloon for a week of live entertainment with Ireland's leading country artists, dinner each evening and plenty of crack. Sun, Saloon and you this September. For booking information, go to the outlet on highlandradio.com.
Looking for the best place in the Northwest to get a bed or mattress? Restex Beds and Mountaintop Letterkenny has a great selection and great prices. Restex Beds has everything you need for a good night's sleep. Visit them today and sleep better tonight.
Join me, Marty Friel, every Friday night from 8 for Rockin' Hits on Highland Radio in association with Arena 7, where you can enjoy dinner and drinks in the Woodbury Grill Bar and Restaurant before bowling in Arena 7's state-of-the-art lanes. See arena7.ie.
Don't know if you know Alison Pat. Late 40s, couple of kids, been together 17 years. Never married, of course, but that's not a problem. Until something happens, and suddenly words like unmarried, inheritance, and substantial tax bill enter the equation. You never need proper estate planning. Until you do. That's why the experienced team at McElhenney & Associates are here to help. Find us online or call 074 917 5989. McElhenney & Associates Solicitors, Stranraer.
The effects of personal debt problems often go beyond just financial. What we don't want to face can cause us to unravel. Stress eats at you, relationships unwind. It can feel like life's falling apart, but support is available. Get back on track with the Insolvency Service of Ireland, an independent organisation that helps untangle personal debt problems. See backontrack.ie. Supported by the Government of Ireland.
Highland Radio weather updates brought to you by Grant. Building a new home? Choose Grant's A++ rated Airona air-to-water heat pump and Uflex underfloor heating. Visit grant.ie.
Okay, it is continuing to snow across the northwest. A listener says it was on Barnesmore Gap. Yeah, anyone travelling through Barnesmore Gap should give extra time as traffic is crawling. Cold, wet and blustery today with outbreaks of rain, sleet, and now we're seeing that snow spreading from the south. Some accumulations of snow are likely, especially over the higher ground, temperatures of 2 to 4 degrees. Richard Hogan's a writer and psychotherapist at the Therapy Institute. Good morning to you, Richard.
Good morning, Greg.
Right, now you are behind a petition. What are you asking people to sign?
I am indeed. For too long now, Greg, I've sat in my clinic and I work with families for many years, and I've worked in schools, and I sit in a national advisory council, so I'm with parents in schools every day, and I talk in schools every week. And I'm asking parents that we come together and we go to the government and say enough is enough of our children consuming hardcore extreme materials. Currently, there are no safeguards in place to protect our children from consuming very damaging images, and they are damaging. And so what I'm looking for is parents to go onto my Instagram, sign the petition. I'm going to Leinster House next week, and I'm going to be bringing this to the government. I want them to finally bring in safeguards and take the safety of our children very seriously, because we know psychologically children who consume hardcore extreme material, it changes their brain structures, it makes them more impulsive, and it can create very, very pathological ideas, particularly boys towards girls. And we just need to stop it, because currently, Greg, a child can go on there at 5 years of age or 6 years of age, and you see all the stats there about kids at that age getting smartphones, which is, it's very dangerous, but that they can consume hardcore material. I've been in a school there last year where a senior infant had consumed extreme material. Now, that is dystopian stuff, and we need to put safeguards in there, because we can't allow these platforms regulate themselves. They don't want less traffic, they want more traffic, and so we have to step in there.
Care, Richard, but what the solution to this? The solution to this, the greatest...
Well,
sorry, Richard, I'll just put the question to you. The solution to this, the greatest resistance will probably come from adults who are supposed to care for children. The obvious solution here is photographic ID to be used to access sites to ensure people are of an age to go on TikTok, to go on X, to go on websites that offer pornography. Like, the government might go, yeah, we would do that, but you know where the resistance is going to come from? It's going to come from the general public, who will argue that, you're trying to steal our identity or track us or blah, blah, blah. You know, the children won't be put first by probably the general population.
You know, you're right, Greg. The greatest resistance will come from, I think, probably the platforms themselves in some ways. But yes, I think as a society, we probably have a relaxed view and think this is just like normal satiating of sexual curiosity. And of course, sexual curiosity, that's normality. That's normal. There's nothing wrong with that. But it's what they're using to satiate it. And people will say, well, it's a nanny state and you're taking too much control from us. And I would say, well, no, the state doesn't allow our children to drink alcohol, and the state, has laws against our children vaping and our children driving with drink, and any of us. So we have laws to protect society. And these things this is a real silent ill in our society, as I see it, working with families and couples as well, but with children. And it's like, it's very easily fixed. If we want our children to stop consuming them, all we have to do is put in, verification of your age with picture photograph. We have huge potential with AI to make this stuff really easy and doable. And so it's a quick fix. We can do it if we want, but the political will has to be there.
And the thing is, it's not perfect, but in terms of technology and protecting children, PlayStation have achieved it. Sony have achieved it. Microsoft have achieved it through the Xbox.
It's achievable.
They can filter out language. You can be flagged for bullying. I mean, obviously, then you can go into another space and there's potential for grooming. But the point being is that industries that actually rely on monitorizing our children have found a way to get almost there in protecting them. It's not perfect, but they have. Adults want their space left alone, but that's where the children are being exploited, exposed, and having, women having, girls having unreal expectations of them, fellas having unreal expectations of women, like
intimacy. Yeah.
Exactly, intimacy and what is and what isn't and all the crap that they see. And when you see what the top searches are in this country, and they're released, it's public, stepsisters, stepfathers, all that kind of stuff, young, old, it's crazy. And we know because Pornhub release that stuff themselves annually, there's a serious problem.
There is a serious problem. And this is what I'm trying to say to people, is that I'm not a prude, I'm not a prude. But I have 3 daughters myself, and I work with teenage boys a lot and younger boys. And I see, and I hear them talking. And I actually, Greg, I have a lot of teenage boys who come to me because they hear me talking publicly because I have a platform, which I'm lucky to have, and they hear me talking about it. They come to me trying to get off pornography because it's addictive. And it's not like they're satiating it with kind of normal curiosity. They're satiating that sexual curiosity with like hardcore, extreme material. That's the nature of pornography today. That's why I'm so against it. And that's why I'm so strong on this. And I think we need to stand up as a society and say, look, that's damaging children. We want our boys to have healthy ideas, and we want them to love themselves. We want our girls to love themselves and respect themselves and understand what intimacy is, because what you described there, that's not intimacy, that's a warped view of intimacy, and that's actually acting. And actually, when you analyze it even further, that promotes sex trafficking. And so it's like, we have to understand what this thing, what this thing actually really is.
In the last 20 seconds, sorry, Richard, if people are of like mind, how do they sign your petition?
Yeah, thanks, Greg. If they go onto my Instagram, official Richard Hogan, you'll see it there. You'll be able to sign it.
Okay, simple as that. All right, thank you very much for your time. Richard Hogan there, writer and psychotherapist at the Therapy Institute. We're back with you tomorrow morning at 9. Have a lovely Thursday. Be careful. The roads, we're getting reports of the roads becoming more dangerous in different parts of the region. So if you are out and about,